Welcome to Welcome to episode... Jesus Christ, get professional. Welcome to episode 162 of Masters of the Forge. My name's Adam. This is Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Adam. How you doing?
Oh, good. I'm great.
Super.
Boy, oh boy, we have quite the episode for everybody today. I'm actually not sure how this is gonna. I basically spent the past 2 days straight doing show notes, and I am not sure if it's in any kind, like if anything is arranged in any kind of logical order whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's one of those. So I don't know. I tried to get rid of as much superfluous information as possible, but also like keep in all the interesting little tidbits that might be confusing still, because it's kind of a big like production between the three
magazine issues.
White Dwarf. Yeah, 3 White Dwarfs, and I think there's a 4th White Dwarf. I don't think they're finished with Flashpoint Charadon.
I think so
that's
either.
gonna. Yeah. So like, I guess there's gonna be more, plus the book, plus the mission pack. So we're skipping that mission pack, by the way. We're just straight up skipping it for now. We're going to do that in a separate episode because we didn't really go into too much detail about the last mission pack. And I kind of want to just sit down and I actually want to go through mission by mission.
Yeah.
And look at some of the stuff they're doing with these missions.
Yeah, because the Beyond the Veil mission pack is one you're talking about. There's so much cool stuff in there. And... you know, I'm sure that now they've had that first one underneath their belt, that their second one's going to be even more interesting. So, yeah I kind of want to deconstruct those into their like parts and kind of see what levers we're pulling and which buttons we're pushing and which switches you're switching. Right.
I guess. And also knobs we're dialing if we're getting real crazy. And so, because understanding that will help us like reassemble them into our own narratives. And I don't think we've done that because everything has been a content fire hose. Even with COVID, it's like content fire hose in your mouth.
Yeah. And
that might be something we have to do next. Well, not next, but maybe soon. Anyways, yeah. In case you didn't notice, we're talking about Warzone Charadon. And in specific, Act 1 of the Book of Rust, which just came out recently. Thanks to GW for the free stuff. Cool, as usual. And before we get into spoilers, it's actually pretty good. I'm really happy. I haven't been too pleased with the Codex lore recently, like in 9th edition. It seems pretty light.
Yeah.
Seems pretty light, but this book reads like one of the old Imperial Armor books.
Yeah, I was hoping that was what was going to happen, or at least that was what I was expecting to happen. I haven't gotten my copy of the books yet. Hopefully I'll get them this week. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, at any rate, let's get into some hobby progress.
Yeah, go for it.
So I finally finished and shipped my 100 Space Marine charity project stuff.
Wow.
Thanks to everybody who contributed to that. Thanks to James Stagg for organizing it and including me. I did a bunch of repaints. Okay, I did like 3 repaints and I did a few touch-ups. It's just, whoever wins this will, they probably want a couple things to be at a certain level. I really don't want to get into it, but yeah, I just did a couple repaints and it's fine. I'm sure those folks don't mind. because initially this wasn't supposed to be for a charity anyways.
Right.
So some of the folks who got into it were like, whoa, hold on, what?
Yeah.
So this is fair. But I shipped those out to Carl a couple days ago. So hopefully they went by UPS. So, go with God.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
You right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I sat down immediately after that with my scissors and I pulled out all the sprues for the Dread Mob.
Oof.
And organized them, and I took all the instructions for the Dread Mob. And started cutting into them. I cut off the arms. And I cut off all the sub-assemblies out of the instructions.
Yeah.
And I started kind of rearranging them and taping them together into kind of plans for the models. And I that was a lot of fun. After looking, Dave gave me some Onager Dune Crawlers. He gave me 2 Onager Dune Crawlers, and Mark sold me one for a ripping deal.
Yeah.
And so I have 3 Onager Dune Crawlers to do one of the units in. And man, those don't fit on Def Dread bases.
No.
The Def Dread base is a joke. It is a straight up travesty.
Well, it's small, right?
And when you look at it, it's real small. It's like 50 or 60 millimeter. Yeah. It's like 60. And if you look at the model, it really doesn't fit on there.
Right.
It overhangs the base something fierce anyway. So it's not just me trying to fit the Onager Dune Crawler on there. It's it just looks super bad. So I don't plan on taking this list to any tournaments. So I don't care. I'm putting them on 100 millimeter bases. Someone has a problem with that, suck it. I bought 900 millimeter bases from Arky Dan over at Tectonic Crafts.
Sweet.
I got it 2 days later. Yeah. He moved to Wisconsin or something.
Yeah, I heard about that. I never had a chance to meet him. I'm sure I'll meet him at Adepticon in the future.
Oh, probably. Yeah, he always goes to tournaments. So, after that, so the Tantalus arrived, my bereavement gift to myself.
Yeah, saw that.
The first of 2 bereavement gifts to myself. And I was really excited when it showed up. You are gorgeous. You're beautiful. Look at your beautiful, sleek, cream colored lines. And I caressed them as I took stock of the pieces. Not
creepy at all. Go ahead.
No. It didn't look very bent to me. It looked pretty good. I extracted it from the gates in the Flash. There was one really epic piece of the one gate was fully attached to the one of the rear engines.
Oh.
And it was flush with the engine's rear business end where you glue the nozzle onto it.
Right.
It was a good inch gate I had to saw off with my saw. That was somewhat bracing.
Yeah.
All of the bends that were in it were repaired with hot water. I have my hot water turned up to nuclear, by the way, so that might be why that worked. I should probably change that since I have a baby. Anyways, I got it assembled. All the pieces came together fine because I treated this thing like I never treat models.
Right.
I actually took my time. I actually looked at each piece and thought I was thoughtful about how it went together with the other pieces and did a bunch of dry fitting and trimmed off pieces of it. I actually did some trimming of the corners and the sides where I thought maybe it wouldn't fit snug. And I kept doing that until each piece fit snug. This model is fascinating in that it has a bunch of brass etch, not for symbology, but for the the decking where the models stand. It's got some filigreed brass etch, and that brass etch actually it forms part of the structure. It's not just for appearance. It's actually some of the pieces, you have to glue pieces onto it and then glue that onto the model. Those looked great. The last piece I put on, though, did end up with gaps. So it's kind of like a cornerstone piece on the very back. Mm-hmm. It's like a throne where the driver stands, or the pilot, or the conning officer,
right.
or sorry, dude, the conning, whatever, the person back there. And I think that there was some very minor warping in the body that is impossible to see normally, but once you put that last keystone piece in, it's apparent, it's evident. If you are assembling one of these Tantalus, if you're assembling this model, there are little holes and guides in the brass etch and in some of the pieces. What I would end up doing, and what I did, was I actually glued those pieces together first as sub-assemblies before putting them on the main model. That helped a lot. Figure out where things should go and how things should set. So anyways, those gaps, I filled them with JB Weld. Some folks online are now using resin, UV cured resin. They mix it with baby powder and they use that for gap filling instead. So they'll fill the gap and then they'll hit it with the UV light.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it'll set. Yeah, that's I didn't do it this time because I wasn't going to try out a new technique on a $160 model.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah. So I let that set overnight and I got some green stuff on there and I actually trimmed off. I had to do a little sculpting basically to get it on there and get it smooth. Another thing, even though I washed it, the Games Workshop, the lead belcher spray, now that's been great on my knights and stuff. Like things that I spray with that have been really good. Really smooth, couple coats, good to go. This resin does not take it very well. I should have done a primer coat first.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it kind of started pulling in on itself, like the Terminator 2000, the T2000.
Oh, so it was getting absorbed by the resin.
It's like, it's not absorbed by the resin. It's being absorbed by itself. Like capillary action had it pooling itself across the surface and leaving blank areas on the resin. So imagine it's like it's spread evenly across the model when I start, and then it starts pulling together like almost in an elastic way, towards like a center point. It's really weird. So I ended up having to spray, there was no turning back after the first coat, and it didn't happen across over the entire model, just in some locations. So what I did was I sprayed it, let it set, sanded it, sprayed it, let it set, sanded it again, and then sprayed it one last time, and that was fine. Lots of sanding on this model. I'm sure I'll be fine. So when you'll note, one thing that happened was with this model was, the Games Workshop lead belcher spray paint.
Yeah.
That's been really good for plastic models, but with this resin, it doesn't go right on the surface, even after you wash it really good. Wait, did I already talk about this?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Anyways, I was sanding a lot on this model, and I'm sure I'll be fine. What happened a lot with this model was with, that lead belcher spray paint that Games Workshop produces from Citadel.
Are you going to say this again?
Man, Tough crowd tonight. Tough crowd tonight,
I'm not
Jason.
editing
Jeez.
that. I'm leaving it.
Tough crowd, man. I'm sure someone out there thought it was funny.
I should have let it go longer, but oh well.
No, sure. You should have. Yeah. So I started last night. Last night? What's today? Monday?
Yeah,
last
Monday.
night. I hung out with the Adeptus Terra Hobby Hangout.
Yeah.
And I got the first base coats and the first Nuln Oil on my crew. For the crew, I have the pilot. I have like an Archon leader type person pointing and gesturing forward. I have a Kabbalite warrior standing there with like their gun pointed up and their hand just kind of at ease. I have a witch hanging off the side.
Yeah.
And a incubi standing on the deck as well. So I've got kind of like one of everything on there, just so I was gonna glue them to the deck. We'll see. I might not glue them so that I can say, oh, what's in here right now is witches and hang the witch off the side or whatever. I might just end up gluing it. We'll see.
Is that the witch model from the Venom kit?
It's the Raider. The Tantalus comes with a sprue with all the crew from the Tantalus on it. From the Raider on it. So I have more sales, yay! But yeah, they give you a full set of crew to man the Tantalus if you want. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be much more painting actually than a Raider, if I'm being honest.
Probably not.
There isn't a whole lot of surface area. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge, but it's not a huge amount of surface area on there that isn't like grading and sail. The sail is going to be a bit much. I'm going to put a big decal on it.
Right.
And since I sprayed the whole thing lead belcher, I don't even need to touch most of the metal. I'm going to try to get some highlights and stuff on some parts of it, but like the grading and a lot of the rigging, I don't have to touch that. So that's good.
Yeah, that is good.
But I'm painting the crew first, then the sail, because that's going to be the biggest pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like the hatred part of the models. So after that, I'll happily start doing the hull. I'll probably use a brush. I'm not going to use an airbrush. I just no. And that is my hobby progress.
Yeah.
Besides the show notes. I
missed that hobby hangout yesterday because I was literally grading all of the things.
It's at the most wonderful time of the year.
1 month left. I mean, I'm about to start counting down like the days. Which our buddy Brian,
my old teacher, John, my old teacher Joe Weiss, he had the days to retirement in his classroom.
Wow, that is.
It was years worth of days at that point, so that's pretty funny. This was the same guy that gave us extra credit for answering questions about the Vikings. Not like he's a history teacher, but we're not talking about like real Vikings. We're talking about sports Vikings.
Wait,
Minnesota?
Yeah, Minnesota. Yeah.
Yeah, there was always a Minnesota Vikings question on the test, and we would get extra credit if we answered it correctly. And by correctly, I mean like what he deemed correct. Like,
okay,
like an opinion. We had to answer his opinion question correctly.
Wow. Okay. I've only put Monty Python jokes in my extra credit, but okay, cool. All right, hobby progress. So the Photep, Amon, and my Thousand Sons Predator they finally have their silver base coat. Yeah, because I finally got it done. I did add the first layer of the red coat, which is blood red or bloody red. I don't remember exactly, from Ghost Tints. It's the red Ghost Tint. And normally, you have to add flow improver or thinner or something because it's just so thick. It'll it'll splotch all over the place. And so this time I used Flow Improver, and I'm a lot happier with the results. I mean, before it was cool, but there seems to be less pooling, which this stuff does kind of pull at times. You have to be really careful with it. So let's see. So I guess about a year or two ago, I think I bought a Thanatar from one of our listeners from Jordan, and I started painting.
What is that again?
It's a 30K mechanical big stompy robot. I mean, hold on, it's right here. It's a little bit taller than the Redemptor Dread. And it's really a cool model. And so I finally decided to drop some paint on it. Let's see. It's bigger than the Redemptor. It's bigger than the Leviathan. You know, it's just this giant piece of resin. And so I started painting on it, and then realized I probably need to do airbrush to really kind of get a smoother paint on it. So that and the Dune Strider, and those are in the Shao Arcade colors, which is kind of a jade emerald green, and kind of a copper brass. So it's going to look pretty cool when it gets done. Right now it's just base coat, but doesn't look too bad for a base coat. Let's see. So I just started using a new Crusade tracking website, administratum.net, which I misspelled in the notes. Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and start my Thousand Suns over, just because I know I lost data. Like, I know I didn't enter stuff incorrectly into an incorrect manner.
You didn't. And you also, at the end of every game, you're like, yeah, I'll just do it later.
Yeah.
You never did it later.
Well, sometimes
I know your guys were missing stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes you did, but I know you're missing stuff.
Well,
and I'm going to start mine over too. Like, that administratum.net is great.
Yeah.
But it's not great for translating an existing Crusade force onto it.
Yeah.
It's way better for starting a new Crusade force, because, I mean, you can manually set stuff, but it's
not
really
easy.
confusing.
Yeah.
It's really intended to, like, oh, I just played a game, enter the stuff you got. Okay, next game. And like, when you go to translate it, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You can't just, it's just hard to, you lose a lot by doing that. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll probably do the same thing, considering I'm going to start over with the new Drakari.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you probably need to, because that is the new book. I might start tracking my Night House here. I probably should start playing that through Tabletop Simulator, because why not?
Yeah, I'd love to play against your knights.
Yeah, because that'll at least give me a chance to start playing them before I finished building and painting them. And now that the knights seem to be getting some love in this new Charadon campaign book, as I was digging around the website, I found out you can create like a league using the tracking website.
Ooh, nice.
So, we could, if there was interest, we could start up like a Masters of the Forge league, or a narrative.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Yeah, an NPC narrative podcast consortium. There we go. I got our name right. We could set up one of those. Yeah, so there's some really cool stuff that, that's what we might want to do in the future. And one other thing, and this is on accident, I discovered there's 31 Warhammer horror novels and short stories that are either published or about to be published. Well, they're all available for purchase, so, which I didn't realize there are that many short stories and novels in the Warhammer horror area, but that was kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're not all by David Annandale either. I mean...
No, not all. Really?
Yeah.
Shocked.
Right?
Shocking. Yeah, we definitely should do a novel soon. Yeah. I kind of do want to do this.
Deacon of Wounds.
Deacon of Wounds, and maybe I think we definitely do this Crusade mission pack first.
Yeah.
Maybe if there's some interesting, like 40K opportunities in that book, maybe we can come up with some cool narrative missions. But again, I'm thinking that these series of books is less combat oriented, so might not be that necessary. We'll see.
Well, it'd be nice to have David back on. We haven't had him on in a while.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. Yeah. And he's coming towards the end. We'll do it after the semester because he's probably going through the same stuff you are right now.
Yeah, I'm sure he's, I haven't seen him on Facebook recently, so.
No, it's the end of the semester. Probably super busy grading idiots who chose not to be in class for the past 2 months and are asking for extra credit, etc., etc.
Build a time machine. That's how you get extra credit. Build a time machine.
That's how you get extra credit.
Yeah.
Or answer questions about the Minnesota Vikings.
Ooh. So I could actually go through and create my own questions about the Minnesota Vikings, not knowing anything about them. That could be even more entertaining.
That's true. Yes. What year in the 18th century did the Minnesota Vikings win the World Series?
Oh, nice. We're bouncing between sports teams too. Sports leagues.
Boom. And, and I don't think football was a thing in the 18th century.
No, it's mostly 20th century. All right. Keep going.
Maybe Doctor Who brought football to the Americas in the 18th century.
Maybe. All right, let's go to games played before any of our football.
He might be a star player.
Before any of our football fans reach through the headphones and try and strangle us.
He has a spaceship. That goes through space and time, and he's a star player. Anyways, we had a game.
Yes, we did. That was
air
funny.
Quotes.
I had a good laugh.
We video cast it over Discord over at our the NPC Discord. Invited some people. Some people were watching, which was nice. It was incredibly one-sided.
Oh yeah,
but we had a good time. Yeah, it was fun. We kind of just did an on-the-fly mission with your Blood Ravens versus my Drakari using the new codex.
Yeah.
And we decided, well, let's do a Blood Ravens chop shop, and I'm trying to steal, people to torture, and you are trying to cut up other Space Marine chapters vehicles to use for your own motor pool.
Repaint.
So I put some
repaint, repair, redo.
I put some other chapters vehicles on the battlefield as objectives for you to hold, and you got points for holding them throughout the game as you hurriedly tried to cut them to pieces and ship them off. And I got points for destroying your units. And that was it. We decided to go with points. We were just quickly, making a list and doing points. But we had a good time. We flipped the table at the end. It was a nice day.
My favorite moment, like you're there to kidnap my warlord, and I think you hit him with the heat lance. It just vaporized him in one shot, and I laughed so hard I couldn't stop. Yeah, I took a secondary to steal. Or no, we decided if I kill a character in combat, I got an extra 10 points. Yeah.
And if you, I forgot what it was. I think if you held objectives at the end of the game or something like that, you also scored an additional 10 points.
Yeah.
Something like that. And I vaporized him with a freaking heat lance. He just disappeared. Like, jeez, one shot, one kill. I almost re-rolled the damage roll. I was like, I'm gonna spend a command point. This is stupid. But that was fascinating.
Yeah.
So much for that guy.
Well, yeah.
I didn't even get a moment's pleasure from that pain because he didn't feel anything.
No, he just...
One minute he was there, the next minute he wasn't.
Well, his boots were still there, smoking.
That's true. We put some smoking boots on the table. I love Tabletop Simulator sometimes.
Yeah, you can do some goofy, fun stuff on there. It's great.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Do you hear that wind? It's carrying us away beyond the fringe. I'm sure that sounds fine in your ears.
I'll figure out something.
My Beyond the Fringe is puppies. We're getting a puppy.
That's awesome.
This is the first time we've had a puppy.
Oh,
and it's going to be horrible.
Oh, you're gonna love potty training, or not potty, but outdoor training. Yeah, it's going to literally be the worst. Well, it's a golden, right? I mean, those are bright dogs.
I wanted an. I was like, let's just get another older dog. All right, let's just get another older dog. Someone wanted a puppy.
Yeah. Well.
Anyways, I'm sure I won't be the one to do all the work.
Have fun housebreaking him.
So what are you? What's your Beyond the Fringe?
Well, I have two, because one of them is kind of a gaming thing, so I'm not sure if it's really Beyond the Fringe. The first, we'll go.
I mean, it is.
Okay. Well, first of all, I got a new AC. Yeah, man, that other one. When the AC repairman guy walks in and says, "Man, I haven't seen one of those in years," that's never a good sign ever. And then he went up in the attic. He's like, "That's not even the same unit that goes with the unit outside." It's like, and I'm just there thinking, oh, maybe that's why my electric bills are so freaking high. Cool, that's cool. I can handle that. All right. So, anyways, got a new AC. Pretty stoked about that. I also backed, hopefully I can get this out tonight for the release tomorrow. I backed the Coyote and Crow RPG Kickstarter, which basically it's Native American. If North and South America had not been colonized by Europeans, like that's the RPG basis. I thought it was more out in space. Right. And when I was talking to Andrew about it, but I was wrong. It's definitely still on Earth, and it looks really, really cool. I'm really ready to get this thing. I think they asked for $18,000 to get it off the ground and
fund it.
Yeah, I think they're at $770,000, which I'm sure
good for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a really great idea, and it's rather inexpensive. And one of the pledges, the one I took, was that I would get a physical copy of the book, and one physical copy would go to either a nation or a reservation library. For those libraries, which I'm sure, they're thinking, we'll just have to deliver 20 to 50. We have to figure that out. I think that over 2,000 people took, or almost 3,000 people took that. So yeah, I'm sure
maybe some, okay, that's enough. That's probably enough for, I don't know how many reservation libraries there are, but I don't think there's 2,000, are there? So maybe they can give one to each and then just donate the rest or something like that.
I have no idea. I mean, depending on the state, some states have more than others. I mean, I'm familiar with Oklahoma and some of the ones in New Mexico, but Idaho has a ton of areas. So I don't know.
Okay. Either way, it's doing good.
Yeah.
That's great. Is it platform independent, or does it have its own system?
Its own system. They're using a D12, if I remember correctly.
I love it. I love me a D12. Yeah.
So I was just really curious because I'd like to read the lore. I'd like to see what they do and maybe reskin some of that stuff to other things, maybe in 40K. I don't know. But I'm really stoked about it. I wish that had been around when I was a little kid. My grandmother probably would have been happy with me reading that instead of the Dungeons and Dragons player manual that I had. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's great. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing about that.
Yeah.
So for the Astropathic Communique, we've got a couple things. We've got Maelstrom of War and White Dwarf 461. I did not notice this the last time I went through it.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting. We definitely should try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's try that out the next time we play.
Yeah.
Maybe you can try out your Imperial Knights, and I can try out some nonsense, and we'll try Maelstrom of War. Yeah. That seems fun. Also, in the previews, we had Savage Orcs, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. If you recall, we talked about how Psychic Awakening had some rumors about either snake bites or savage orcs, and it kind of inspired us to do that one snake bites episode. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, don't forget that, snake bites and savage orcs are two different things. So you can have savage orcs who are snake bites and snake bites who are savage or whatever. Not all snake bites are savage. Not all savages are snake bites. And it looks like it might be a separate codex even.
Really?
So, yeah, it might be like a situation where you can have an orc army and you can have this savage orc army, and you might be able to ally them depending on, what you want for your army purity bonuses. Yeah, it seems really interesting. I'm really looking at the models that they showed a model, mm-hmm. but then they kind of had this art, like this scrolling artwork that hinted at other models,
right?
And it's gonna be bonkers. I'm gonna go broke.
Yeah,
I just bought a Tantalus. I can't afford this. I just bought like $500 worth of like plastic walker models. I can't afford this.
Your wallet is never going to, your wallet's never going to come back from that one.
My suggestion to name the puppy was Grover.
Yeah, I remember those.
And yeah, he's Grover now. At first, my wife said, "Oh, that's cute, Grover." Quinn just learned how to say Grover from Sesame Street. I'm like, yeah, or it could be because Grover Cleveland is on the $1,000 bill, and that's how much this puppy costs. Instead of like the $160 it would have cost to get it from the pound, but that's fine.
Go with Grover.
That's fine. I'll teach a dog how to piss outside for $1,000. Oh, you mean you're not giving me $1,000? I'm giving you $1,000 for the opportunity to teach a dog to not piss indoors? Okay. It sounds fun. Let's do it. Let's do it. I feel like I'm not entering in this with love in my heart, but
love is a mini splendor thing.
Yeah. I just got new pictures today. This thing is really cute.
Oh, good. Okay.
This dog is ridiculous. It's like I'm not sure it's legal how cute this dog is.
Oh, good.
I'm pretty sure someone, I don't know, God or its parents or whoever is going to prison because it's a crime that this dog is so cute. Check out the channel.
All right. Oh, that is a cute picture.
Like, for real, look at that.
Oh, wow.
Look at his face. Look at his little smush face. He's running a puppy dog.
He's like, hello, I don't have a name yet.
It's Grover.
It's Grover or whatever.
Grover. That's the name it shall have.
Or we're also thinking Sully. Sully might be a good one. Anyways, anywho, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk for about 5 hours on Warzone Charadon. Damn, I knew it was around here somewhere. Damn, where is it?
Can I help you?
Ah! Scared me.
What do you seek?
I need the perfect scenario for a narrative game I'm running this week, and I can't find one.
Sir, this is the Black Library. We don't have narrative scenarios.
Well, then where should I go?
Might I recommend the Tabletop Campaign Repo?
The Tabletop Campaign Repo? What's that?
The Tabletop Campaign Repo is an ad-free site for hosting resources related to playing tabletop miniatures wargaming.
Oh, like scenarios?
Absolutely. Also, event packs, custom objectives, tracking sheets, custom terrain rules, maps, icon packs, award templates, and more.
Oh, and this is for Warhammer 40K?
Among other things, there's also Age of Sigmar, Kill Team, Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and others. They're always open for content submissions for any system, even non-Games Workshop materials.
Oh, that's awesome. It sounds like a great way to save all of this great content the community makes. A lot of that stuff often ends up disappearing into a dead message board or Facebook group.
Exactly. It's a real community effort.
Great. So how do I get there?
Just go to that webway gate marked tcrepo.com.
tcrepo.com. Got it. Can I ask you one more question before I go?
Fire away.
This place is really easy to find. How come Aramon can never find it?
Oh, because it's more funny that way.
Oh, yeah, clearly.
Once again, the Tabletop Campaign repository can be found at tcrepo.com, and they're always looking for submissions.
Hey Archons, does 9th edition have you feeling like the Slith Party Bus just doesn't have enough party for you? Well, if you want to put a little shock back into your shock brow, you need the Slith Party On! That's right, Archons. For 736 points, you can take 3 Archons, 12 Slith, and a Tantalus. It's the Slith Party On! Now, I know what you're thinking. Couldn't I take Drazar, 15 Incubi, and a Tantalus, aka the Incubi Murder Boat, for 51 less points? Sure, you could, but it wouldn't be the Slith Party On! But is it legal? Oh yeah! Is it awesome? Oh yeah! Is it any good on the table? No! It's the all-new Slith Party On. Sort of awesome. Party On! Really hilarious. Party On! It's the Slith Party On!
Come here, boy, get the ball. Come on, Max, get the ball. Mom, Max won't get the ball. He's lazy.
I think I know why your Zote is being lazy, Jenny.
Why, Mom?
Because you forgot to feed him Zotabix today.
Oh, no.
Oh yes, Zotabix contains all the nutrients and random animal parts a growing Zote craves. It not only provides our Zote with the energy it needs to play with you and protect our home, but it also keeps its chitinous shell fresh and shiny.
Oh boy, I'd better feed Max his Zotabix.
Yes, you had.
Zotabix is made in part from grade
Max,
A
time for
Astra
dinner.
Militarum post-engagement byproduct and is infused with 112 essential vitamins
No,
and
Max,
minerals
down.
harvested from your Zote's natural habitat, the finest desert deserts.
Ah!
Zotabix is available in any shopping center on worlds where Zotes are allowed or where the Imperium's inexorable influence has not yet reached.
Welcome back, everyone. So, once again, keep in mind, we're a mess. I'm a mess. Also, Jason's Book of Rust hasn't come in yet.
No.
So, I'm going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting on vocals in the lore section, or in the other section, the rules section.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry about that.
and I can't, like I said, I was having trouble organizing the notes. Like, I feel like, so what I did was I did some general background first.
Mhm.
Then we'll go on and talk about kind of the opening stages of this war of rust and sludge, or rust and slime. I forget what it was. And then go into each of the regions and kind of what happened there. And then after that, talk about the end of the book, like the end of this half of the story. So, like the 3 stages of the war that were portrayed in the book, it'll be 1, 2, then individual stories, then 3. Okay. So let's start off. First of all, the book uses a weird time system using these measurements that Metallica decided on. When the Cicatrix Maledictum came, if you recall, Gilliman came up with one where it's like years post the Maledictum in each system or on each planet. And then each day, like the time periods after the days are, after the years are like fragment, like 8-hour fragments. So it's really confusing, actually.
Right.
Metallica came up with one where it's work cycles since the Cicatrix Maledictum. I looked everywhere. I couldn't find what a freaking work cycle is. And like I guess the Imperium uses 20-hour work days, which of course they do.
Yeah. Brutal.
But that doesn't, what does that mean though? What is it? Is a work cycle like overlapping work schedules of like of one day, or is it a day? And I try to do some math. Like it tells you how many it tells you the date cycles since the coming of the Maledictum, and according to Games Workshop, we've shifted from like 100 years to 12 years. So I kind of divided by 12 to get a year, and then at that point it was like 52. It was like between 50 and 60. So like, so these are weeks.
Yeah.
It's like a week is a work cycle. But sometimes when you're in here, it almost feels more like a cycle is a day. So I don't know. I'm a little confused, and I just wish they would have just told us.
I think what makes me laugh about this is it all goes back to that one, that one line from Gilliman. They can't even figure out how to tell time. They can't even record time correctly.
Right.
And I think this is the authors going, yeah, we're going to run with that one just to make things different and difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, I was doing some research on this, and I guess like when the Imperium figures out history and events that happen, the veracity of the information has different levels based on whether it was corroborated, whether it was directly observed, whether it has recordings, et cetera, and all the way to the point where, and even with all of those things, the older the information gets, the lower the veracity of it. Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. They have like levels 1 through 6 or something. But anyways, just keep that in mind. So I'll start off here. The Charadon system in the Ultima Segmentum near the Maelstrom, as most of you should know, is most famous for the orc infestation and invasions that have occurred there. The battles with the Crimson Fists for Rin's World is quite well known. It's one of the most famous 40k books ever. These areas are the Palan and Anungul subsectors, which this story is not about. It is not about either of those subsectors. Most of that's totally fallen to orc domination. Over the centuries, it's become kind of a thorn in the side of neighboring Ultramar, and the recent rise of Tyranid and Necron activity, as well as the coming of the Cicatrix Maledictum. The orcs have become emboldened. It's like a party for them, as we've talked about in the past. Yeah. It's like,
a new log.
Someone turned on the base. Yeah. All right. And so the orcs have taken system after system, and they've spread out. And it's not a calculated process. Some of the worlds are just lucky to be ignored. Many are not. The time of these haphazard conquests might be soon coming to an end. because of the beast Gazgul has been rumored to be visiting other great orc warlords throughout the galaxy, forming alliances, including the Overfiend of Octarius and the current Arch-Arsonist. I assume is still Snagrod.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to figure that out, and there's no information leading to the contrary that I could find. I could have sworn he died, but I guess not. He was defeated, but I guess he might not have died. He disappeared or something.
Right.
I'm sure someone can help me out with that. Now, located in the midst of the domain is Forge World Metallica. It's not just a cool name. It's really important to remember how absolutely vast this galaxy is. So I'm kind of just talking to folks who are like, what about the orcs right now? Like, we need to settle this right now before we go forward. No one should be mad that there's no orcs in this right now yet.
They'll be there.
Yeah, if you look at all the galactic maps and all of your codexes, you'll see that domains overlap like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the map of the galaxy, you'll see the Tyranids and the orcs. If it were a land map for a land war, they would have already won, right?
Yeah.
But it's space. Space is unimaginably big. Not just big, but dense. Now, you say, Adam, that's crazy. Space isn't dense. It's a lot of space. That's why it's called space. Sure. But in the Charadon sector, if you look at a map of it, you'll see like a couple hundred stars, maybe that Games Workshop has ticked in there with their little paint program. Those stars represent millions of stars, or maybe hundreds of thousands of stars. Lots of star systems, way more than they can put little dots in their paint program on a map and have it make sense. So the orcs haven't conquered every single star system that little green blob on the map shows. They've conquered some of them, for sure. That's the extent of their influence. That's not their complete conquered space. If you're in there, you're probably in danger of being attacked by orcs, certainly more than if you were elsewhere. But, just being elsewhere doesn't mean you're free from orc influence either. It's just this heavier influence of orcs. Again, it as we'll kind of talk about in a little bit, it's all kind of what your profile is, how high profile you are, low profile you are, what's needed by the attackers. Lots of things go into it, but it would take even orcs. It would take them way too long to conquer every single star system in a sector or a subsector.
Yeah.
So they could also be at war, but territory in space isn't like territory on land. You can't just cordon off giant swaths of space light years across. No one has enough starships for that sort of thing. But factions can protect their worlds, and Metallica seems to have done so against the orcs fairly well in Charadon for now. They've created a cordon across the rimward side of the Lyriac sector, and only sporadic pirate raids stared across that line. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about orcs and the Lyriac subsector later.
Yep. So Metallica's sect of the cult of Mechanicus is somewhat zealous, even by Imperial standards. They despise chaos both in every meaning of the word. Their homeworld has been stripped not only of life, but all natural ors. The world is entirely mechanical. I keep thinking of, was it Junktron from, yeah.
Junkion, Planet Junkion.
There we go, yeah. Although it's Metallica, so it's not that, because they would, turn into a servitor for calling their beautiful world a junk planet.
Junk.
Yeah. They are so proud of their industry that they see the pollution caused by it as a blessing, because Yeah.
They love the smell of their own poop.
Pretty much. Their world is inundated with chemical waste, and the air is totally unbreathable. Okay, cool. The din coming from their manufacturer is deafening. Even their troops' personal arms are designed without any kind of silencing capabilities, so that the wielder and their foe can clearly hear the sound of death being dealt by them. You have a lovely little GIF here of Bart. It's actual footage of Metallica whenever they talk to other Forge Worlds. It's Bart Simpson beating a pan, yelling, "I am so great, I am so great," which is Metallica. That's just who the Forge World is. I keep wanting to say the band.
They're described. Yeah, they're described as bellicose.
Yeah.
In the book, which that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that does. This Forge World, along with their allies in House Raven, has long involved itself in the wars against the enemies of the Imperium. They engaged Angron on Armageddon and have fought off the orcs from their doorstep for ages. And during the Indomitus Crusade, Metallica joined in the festivities against the terrible might of the Death Guard in the Plague Wars. Yeah.
Right. Yep. And that's kind of what we've got going on here, too.
Skip's
right?
Forge World is Metallica, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay.
I believe so. And yeah, the House Raven is, I had no idea how vast their holdings were. We'll talk a little bit about them later.
Okay, yeah.
So being in the vicinity of Bad App, Catechin, McCrag, and the Pariah Nexus, and all in the Maelstrom, puts the Charadon sector in the crossfire of several major ongoing conflicts. Any major power in the region, whether they be Imperium, Orc, or Chaos, is likely to find themselves embroiled in larger events.
Yeah.
But according to the Book of Rust, Metallica produces enough material in a single Terran month to supply an entire crusading army.
Wow. It's like Krieg.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah. This not only makes them a huge target of enemies, but also shoulders them with the burden of responsibility for caretaking the region over which they have influence. Mm. So imagine someone, if Metallica was like, "Can you please help us with this problem that we're having?" And like whoever they were asking help from were like,
"You can't take care of it?
Kid, take care, you can do this. Go for it." Or better yet, like if Metallica reached out to a nearby system and said, "Hey, you need to take care of this problem on your borders or it's going to come after us." And that little system, you can imagine them coming back with, "Or you could do it." Right? Yeah. If you're so concerned, why don't you come over here and help us? So, yeah, being the big Forge World on campus has its benefits and it has its responsibilities.
Yeah.
So with the emergence of the Cicatrix Maledictum and the flare-up of aggression in the region from the Death Guard, it was only a matter of time before Metallica and its many colonies throughout the region found themselves besieged, specifically by Typhus himself. Typhus would not find breaching Metallica an easy task. The world was heavily defended by vast cordons of defenses known as the Rings of Steel. The Book of Rust describes the various grandiose constructs that make up these defenses. The book does do a good job of painting a picture. It's very matter of fact. It's not very poetic.
Right.
Like some of the older ones tried to be, the ones from like 7th edition. It's a nice kind of return to more of a history book with interspersed prose.
Right.
Instead of trying to be kind of a fake prose. Like, it's very interesting. It's a good book. It's I think it's pretty well written personally. So the defenses were absolutely necessary. The 3 major warp routes leading to the region and the world specifically were both a strength and a curse. They allowed Metallica's vast resources to easily be conveyed across the galaxy, but they also provided several vectors for enemies to reach Metallica. So such a thing was considered foolhardy to anybody who knew even half of the Forge World's capability to defend itself. It's like all of these mandible points and warp lanes, like apertures, are all have like star forts next to them, ready to blast anybody who comes through.
Basically mining the entrance.
You got it.
Yeah.
They're basically mining the entrance. Yeah, exactly. And with unthinking machine people who will just kill you if they feel like it.
Yeah. So, because of this, one would find it difficult to think of an enemy better suited for the conquering of Metallica than the Death Guard. Because patient and insidious nature of their warfare was the perfect method to slowly chip away at the societies that supported Metallica's war machine. Disease would spread throughout the subsectors and administrations of the cult of Nurgle. They're the perfect siege army. Well, I mean, except for Iron Warriors, but Iron Warriors are whatever. So,
but with Nurgle, you have that underlying, like, underground weakening of the infrastructure that you don't get with the Iron Warriors.
That's very
Iron Warriors are a little too direct. Now, if you were to combine the Death Guard and the Iron Warriors into a single fighting force, now that would be a crazy thing. And the Iron Warriors do show up a little bit later. It's terrible, because then you have these cults that spring up worshiping Nurgle, and they're, loving Nurgle and spreading all this disease and weakening the infrastructure. And then you have the 1-2 punch of, these powerful siege breakers who can pinpoint your artillery strong points from miles away, and they know where to strike to best break down your walls. That seems great.
Yeah. So let's talk about really everyone's favorite, Death Guard character, or at least should be, Typhus. Yeah, I know some of you don't think that Morty should be the top guy, but let's be honest, Typhus is a lot cooler.
He's pretty cool.
Yeah, he is pretty cool. All right, so Typhus is known as Nurgle's most favored champion, and he knows it. And he lets everyone else know it, because why not? He balks at any command directed by Sorry, I was about to call him Morty. Mortarion, that he himself doesn't want to perform. So he's definitely, an independent operator. He knows that Nurgle's, favors him.
And if you remember from what was it, Dark Imperium?
Yeah,
when there were a few conversations between Typhus and Mortarion, where Typhus basically just threw up the double deuces and told him what he can do with himself.
Well, one of the last books of the Horus Heresy is about Mortarion and Typhus, and even then, Typhus just like, I'll do what I want. I really don't care what you think.
I'm grown.
Pretty much. As I was reading that book, I was like, well, I could order that, I could order that mini and, paint that. That'd be kind of cool. Don't need to, but I could. So anyway, let's see. So Typhus is a singular individual, a figurehead of immense power and unbreakable will. He has commanded the Death Guard Legion for millennia, heeding the whims of Grandfather Nurgle and spreading his diseases across the galaxy. Typhus' successes are due to his keen acumen as a commander in the battlefield, the unbreakable influence he has over his followers, and his powerful psychic might. Typhus is also blessed with many plagues of Nurgle, and they feel a powerful form which is a bloated and fecund mass of flesh, armor, and weapons. What
a sweetheart.
Yeah, I'm so glad I just ate. As powerful as he is on his own, Typhus still allows his fate to be wrapped up in Abaddon's plans. The text gives him 3 reasons for this, of which any or all could be true. He actually respects Abaddon and wants a worthy ally to follow and fight against the false emperor. Well, that's a possibility. Or he is beholden to his old Astartes' need to have a ranking ward master to fall in line with. Or it is all part of Nurgle's plan to observe Abaddon and tip the balance of favor with him towards the grandfather. I'm going with the third. I'm going with the third because if he didn't care what Mortarion thought of him, he's not going to care what Abaddon anything. So
I can imagine. Yeah, that seems to make some level of sense, actually.
Yeah.
One might think of it as the writers trying to come up with an excuse, but you know what? Writing is like that.
Yeah.
You have an end point that you have to build up towards. So got to get creative with those excuses.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty good one, actually. Mm-hmm. I like that. That's because the ruinous powers are desperate to take him as their own, and he ain't having it.
Yeah, Abaddon.
He ain't having it.
Actually, he might. Now that I think about it, he might. Typhus might actually respect Abaddon just because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it could be that, again, some of these, it doesn't have to all just be one thing needs to be true. It might be a couple things.
Yeah.
So Heptus Clang, Fabricator General of Metallica, is the other kind of pillar gargantuan figure in this tale.
Hold on real quick. I want to talk about his name real quick.
Yeah.
So his last name is Clang, or, well, close to Clang.
Clang?
Yeah, which,
Clang,
that's
Clang.
sound. That's, when we talk about Metallica being just loud, you have Heptus, which is, or Heptus, which would, I guess, be kind of, what is it? Referencing the god of the blacksmiths, and then sound playing. So, yeah. That name makes me laugh when I looked at it, or made me laugh a bit.
Well, it's any good keyboard has decent haptic feedback, right?
Yeah.
So he's basically an instrument, and the clang is the sound he makes.
Yeah.
So, oh my god, this guy is my keyboard.
That's the name of your keyboard now. All right.
My keyboard is now Heptus Clang. Yeah, that's him. Yeah. So he's Fabricator General, and he abhorred biologics, like everything, including and especially his own. Mm-hmm. Like he has a heart which fuels like a tiny piece of his brain that's left over.
Yeah.
And I probably just so he can feel some kind of emotion.
Yeah.
Clang rose to power thanks to his affinity with understanding and commanding machines and Castellan robots. Like as any tech priest knows how to operate, like he can command groups of robots for a task. Mm-hmm. So he didn't start on the battlefield just like anybody else, but his proficiency with robots operation and menial tasks brought him further and further afield in operations that earned him great distinction. So as he grew in figurative stature, he also did so in physical stature, replacing body parts even faster than your usual and more completely than the usual tech priest. So by the time he rose to his current title, almost nothing remained of his physical form. He had even replaced most of his brain, relying on cogitator banks of quite suspect legality.
Yeah.
By the time he got this powerful, nobody dared question it, but his he may be breaking a few rules with his cogitators. Mm-hmm. Although any tech priest is capable of directing the motive force of their troops, Kling does so with supernatural skill and reach throughout the system like a puppeteer with a billion arms. If you remember, we read that book, Tech Priest.
Yeah.
How the tech priest in that book commanded all the troops and stuff, how he could jump from mind to mind and talk directly to the Skitarii, or zoom out and observe the war as a whole. So Kling's power and abilities were such that to question or attempt to circumvent his authority would be incredibly dangerous to any would-be usurpers, because he could he was so quick with his mind that he could, like, imagine you're a tech priest who looks at an order and questions it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really sensitive situation for Kling for some reason. Like maybe they found an STC and he's ordering them to bring it to him or something. If they decide, nah, screw it, I'm going to keep it for myself, Kling can probably take command of their ship and eject them into space. Like, well, guess what? Right?
Yeah.
So, which actually... that's a callback to one of the others, one of the other source books that we had from last edition. So they can definitely do that. So you could argue that Kling's distaste for the biological is akin to a psychosis. He has executed various problematic projects that reflect this, including his deadly extermination arcs, which are capable of irradiating huge swaths of a planet's surface, eliminating all life under the ministrations of its rad beams. If Kling could eliminate all biological life in the galaxy, he would do so. But as powerful as he is, he still fears censure and reprisal from both his collective and the Imperium at large. So, you can imagine if one tech priest displeases him, he can get rid of him, right? Mm-hmm. But if he does something so bad that, most of his charges realize, well, this guy's crazy, that he probably couldn't stop them from removing him from power. Despite the Fabricator General Kling's belief in the fallibility of humanity and all organic life in general, he still resisted wiping out all life for fear of reprisal from Terra. So one can argue his half measures did very little to stymie the gifts of Nurgle. He soon neared the end of his patience with his own conservative policy and dispatched 2 of his extermination arcs to the suffering cardinal world of Alexistor. He'd have gone through with the cleansing of that planet if the Death Guard, led by Typhus the Traveler, didn't pick that moment to launch their full-scale assault.
Ooh, Typhus has come to save the day. Okay. That's a scary thought. So, although Typhus did act on orders from Abaddon through his Lord Discordant Zed, the importance of the operation was personal to Typhus. The Fabricator General's campaign against life itself was an anathema to Grandfather and posed a real danger to his efforts in the region. Besides, the Forge World and surrounding worlds would greatly benefit from the Grandfather's blessings. Yes, it would. Although with the support of the Despoiler, the effort to claim such a prize would be shared by the other Heretic Astartes, Chaos Knights, and Titan Legions. So I guess we're going to look at factions?
Yeah, so I had a huge paragraph here, but there's 2 pages in the book that tell you the factions.
I see that Chem-Dogs are there.
Yeah, the Chem-Dogs were there, burning things with Promethium, which was a lot of fun. There's a group of Freeblades called the Forgotten Company who feature in this book.
Interesting.
And they're really cool. I think they're showing the use of a Freeblade army of renown, where you can take an army of just Freeblades.
Yeah.
And they all work together. And they're pretty cool. There's Forge World Metallica's in here. Forge World Demios shows up. We'll talk more about them later, actually more towards the end, because I think they're going to feature more in the next book.
Yeah.
In the Adeptus Astartes, the Excruciators are the primary Space Marine chapter in the region.
Interesting.
And they feature a great deal in this. Other chapters show up later. Obviously, Questor Imperialis, Questor Mechanicus. House Raven features heavily in this because they are allies with the Mechanicus, and we'll talk more about them later. Lots of Sororitas and Astra Militarum. The Death Guard are here, obviously, but also a bunch of other traitor legions and demons and whatnot will show up later. Now, a very important thing to note is we have a lot of renegade knights,
Right.
and renegade legios here. A legio called Legio Morbidus, and those all assisted Typhus in securing these worlds, because even one traitor legion isn't good at everything.
Right.
And just like one chapter isn't good at everything. I mean, a Space Marine is a Space Marine, but when you're talking about the Death Guard, there are just some things they're not good at. Like, they're not good at the same stuff the Alpha Legion's good at.
Right.
They're not good. They're not good at the same stuff the Night Lords are good at. And those groups are helping kind of fill the holes, which is, again, one of the benefits of allying with Abaddon. It's giving Typhus an edge he would not normally have, or at least filling a role that he would not normally be able to fill with his own men.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the interesting thing there. So the focus on this book is on. Did you want to take on the next part?
I can take it on since you just read through all the factions.
Yeah.
All right. So
yep, no problem.
the focus in the Book of Rust is on two subsectors: the Obelisk subsector, which is the nucleus of Metallicus influence, and the Lyric subsector, which is more of a frontier between Obelisk and the Orc war machine. Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
Basically a place where everyone goes and fights. Cool. 3 phases of the War of Rust and Slime are detailed in this book. So initially, the assault focused on 3 systems: the Chromid system, the Duralium system, and the Alamex system. The attacks on the Chromid system was an expected vector due to its proximity to warp gates, but the appearance of the Death Guard at the other systems was a surprise, requiring that Chaos forces undergo feats of warp translocation that have been dangerous and or costly. We'll talk in detail about the fight over these systems later.
Yeah, it's like they have to. There's no warp route, so they just have to jump there, which is very dangerous.
Oh yeah. There's a couple of books where they'll have a ship that does that, and it just it's so very dangerous because you don't know where you're going to end up if you end up anywhere at all. So once the initial assault was complete, Clang flinched. He contracted his defenses to Roydor, Byzantius, and Freror, while his extermination arcs did their best to conduct a scorched earth campaign against the other beleaguered systems. This action would be known later as King's Betrayal. Meanwhile, the forces of Malignancy struck out deeper into the systems that had been abandoned by the Forge Worlds. Typhus orchestrated various diversions with the help of his allies and other traitor legions, and utilized to great effect the vast network of Nurgle cults, which had slowly risen throughout the sector. And we'll talk more about these individual fights later.
Yeah, there's a lot of proper names in this book.
Yeah.
And this movement was, so we're going to try. I did my best to kind of keep as much out of here as possible,
right,
but there's still going to be quite a bit of that. The important thing to note is that after all these worlds got hit, Clang pulled back and hid, and allowed the neighboring systems to take the brunt of the attacks from the traitor legions. Still, the Excruciators chapter was able to secure their astropathic relay from the enemy, and they sent out calls for assistance and they were answered by several Space Marine chapters, including the Ultramarines, Raven Guard, and White Scars, among others.
Interesting.
The Space Marines weren't the only ones summoning reinforcements, while the Mechanicus cowered behind their iron gates. There was no way that conventional warfare using conventional troops would be able to break the defenses of Metallica. So with the widespread corruption of several worlds, Typhus was able to coax Rodigus the Rainfather into the fight in the hopes that he would bring with him unending hordes of the Neverborn to overwhelm the sector's core worlds. Fun times to be had for all of us. So the engagement details, we're going to talk about kind of what we're going to go into some detail about what we just discussed. This initial stage where these worlds were invaded, and then the Mechanicus kind of left them to their own devices. In these first two stages of the war. There are two subsectors. The main one with Metallica at its center is the Obelisk subsector. And the first system we're going to talk about is the Chromid system. This system had already been suffering the attentions of the Drakari pirates. So they already had reinforcements in system to deal with that threat. But those reinforcements were spread out to engage a fast enemy, right? So it was a great opportunity for the Death Guard warlord Thraxoplasmox.
That sounds disgusting.
Name, to execute a decisive assault against the Chromid system. So let's talk about some of these were descriptions from the White Dwarfs.
Okay.
White Dwarfs kind of went into a bunch of these conflicts and then also pulled from the text in Warzone Charadon as well.
Okay. So we first have Maseta. Let's see if I can pronounce that. Maseta Utilis, which is a fortified void city. That actually sounds interesting.
They don't really go into that one too. Yeah, we don't get into that one too much, but it seems really cool. Just a city in space.
Yeah, that sounds actually really cool. Okay. The next one is Sabira, which is a death world. This world of creeping mists, which could solidify and choke the unwary. Carnivorous forests, wraith-like megafauna, and Razor Mountains was settled by a tough strain of humanity. The locals welcomed refugees from outside their influence with open arms and taught them to defend themselves against the Death World and pressed them into the fight against Lord Thraxoplasmox's forces. As per the usual Death Guard methodology, the Lord continued to push more and more resources into the fight for Sabira in the hopes of grinding the defenders down. However, when your everyday life is a struggle and your planet is so unbelievably inhospitable, it becomes second nature to use the terrain you know so well against your enemy and hold out the tenacious resolve to match or even surpass that of the mighty Death Guard. So the first couple of sentences, the unwary carnivorous forests, wraith-like megafauna, kind of reminded me of the beginning of a Yelp review or something like that.
Yeah, this place is terrible / great. I mean, it's bad if you're looking for a place to stay, place to retire. But if you're trying to escape the clutches of a plotting yet insidious Death Guard force, it's a great place to live. I love the mist.
Try the pancakes.
That can just suddenly the mist that can suddenly turn solid.
Yeah.
And you're just stuck like a gelatinous cube. That's gross.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a really interesting one. This is actually the happiest story in the book.
Oh.
So think on that.
Buckle up.
Think on that. Okarium, which is an industrial world. They due to the backbreaking misery of the population and the recent raids by the Drakari, Okarium was ripe for conquest by the Death Guard. This world's industrial centers were connected with chemical-filled canals, which were jammed with wrecked barges by disgruntled cultists, and the Prometheum processing facilities were also overtaken. So I love the fact that we have barges blocking the canals here because we're just coming off of a particular event in this time. In the news right now, there's a story of a barge blocking the Suez Canal.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really funny. Still, due to the Drakari raids and the reports of Death Guard activity nearby, the actual military forces deployed on Okarium were no slouches. Among those on hand to defend the most important manufacturing centers were the Adeptus Sororitas of the Adamant Halo, Lances of House Daenerys, lots of Astra Militarum regiments, but also including the Salvar Chem Dogs.
Yay!
And yeah, a bunch of guys, and there's some cool stories in there about how they win back lots of these refineries and stuff.
Remember, if any of you want some Kim Dogs, Victoria Miniatures does the Rad Hounds, which are
yeah.
And I've got a bunch of those.
Those are really good.
Paint. So
yeah, and obviously you'd bring those folks in to recapture Promethium tanks, right?
Oh yeah.
What goes great with fuel but fire?
There you go.
And giving you that which you desire, especially when you're fighting for the glory of Metallica. Between the efforts of the local PDF, the Okarium Canal Guard, I did, right? It just fell together naturally, as well as some Selvar Chem Dogs. Much of the processing was recaptured from the cultists. However, when the fight was taken to more hardened positions held by actual Vectorums of the Death Guard, victory was not won so easily. Even with the Imperium's advantage in maneuverability, the patient advance of the Death Guard was vexing. They had unlimited, they called them Never Dead. Yeah. Instead of Never Born, they're Never Dead. It's all the zombies, like the plague zombies. And they just had unlimited resources of those guys to throw at the Imperials. So only with the intervention of the Space Marines was any stalemate broken, not just due to their skills on the battlefield, but experience in executing a war against their Chaos cousins. There's a story in one of the White Dwarfs called Canal of the Damned. It's one of the better ones in this collection. Just talks about how one of the supply convoys on the canals is taken by the Death Guard.
The Canal of the Damned seems like it might be the title of a Doctor Who episode.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I like it, yeah.
All right, so up next we have Torthusa, which is an aggro world, and it's one of the key breadbaskets of the system. Torthusa was assaulted personally by Lord Traxoplasmox. His plotting style of warfare was matched by Imperial Marshal Tetrion's imaginative and daring style. The Agri Caverns were a deadly trap that the Marshal used to their advantage. Still, the Death Guard were resilient and numerous. At great length, the world fell and promised to be a fecund feather in the grandfather's cap. Yeah, that's disgusting.
Yeah. I think some of these worlds might not seem important to the Imperials, but are extremely important to the Death Guard for various reasons. Yeah. This I think is one of them.
Oh yeah.
They don't need to actually feed their zombies, but at the same time, a lot of this biomatter, a lot of this biomatter is important to, cultivating their crop of horrible diseases and creatures.
Yeah. Next, we have Dirock's Reach, which is a hive world. The text says that this outer world is situated near Barlick's Channel, which is a warp phenomenon marking a stable warp corridor out of the region. Oh, that place is going to get torn up. Yeah. As planets tend to orbit their star, this is somewhat confusing unless the warp anomaly also orbits the star or the planet itself. It could make sense if the phenomenon is actually tethered to the human souls on the hive world. Ooh, that could be interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Or they just don't understand how planets work.
Or that.
At Games Workshop. But I like that last one better.
Yeah, I do too. That's probably the one I would go with. So, due to its pivotal location, the world was first hit with a lance thrust by Dreadblade Knights, Company Malevolent. Still, due to its size and population, it was impossible for the Death Guard and their Deathblade allies to erase all resistance as they had on the other worlds. The Adeptus Astartes, including the White Scars and the Black Guard, executed lightning raids against the Death Guard advances. The local population also showed heroic resistance in the face of the enemy. Not only did some hives put up stiff resistance requiring the Death Guard to go to extreme measures to take them down, but the supply convoys were well defended. In one notable confrontation, the Dreadblade Knights were attempting to harry a convoy, only to find themselves squared off against massive, elephant-like draft animals who were able to impale and destroy the knights with a thrust of their colossal tusks. In the end, the Death Guard's strategy of a grinding, inexorable offense won them the world. That's kind of cool. Elephant.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah.
That's a game I'd like to see.
Yeah.
Like people maybe using some of the Age of Sigmar models
Right.
against Imperial Knights.
Yeah.
There's also another cool story. There was a hive city on the ocean shoreline, and all the lower levels were so calcified by the constant waves,
Right.
like of salt and sediment from the ocean, that the Death Guard found it really hard to penetrate the defenses because it was just like
Yeah.
basically pure rock. It was really cool. Martyr's Rest is a mausoleum world.
Oh, okay.
There are some cool stories from this one.
Yeah.
Again, this isn't all the stories. The book is actually pretty good, and the White Dwarfs are okay. At first, the world was under direct influence of the Drukhari, commanded by Lilith Hesperax. So she was here originally. And the poor souls of the capital city of Purity were forced to perform as playthings for the witches and the rest of Kamarot. So I guess like Lilith set up like TV cameras for the Kamra to watch on Torture Vision channel, I guess. When the Death Guard arrived, the Drukhari at first welcomed them as new toys to play with before the war zone became too hot and they abandoned the world to its fate.
That kind of reminds me of in Marvel Comics, there's a Mojo World, but I think that the Drukhari, the Cameroy reminds me of Mojo World, just period. So,
okay. The PDF of the world were forced to fight the Death Guard on their own terms, which on a mausoleum world is problematic. Entire protracted engagements were fought in underground crypts. Above ground trenches had to be dug in the vast city-sized graveyards. I'll give you a second to think about why that's bad. This not only devastated morale, but also led to the defenders contracting vile and unnatural illnesses. So just sitting there waiting for the enemy to attack caused the ranks of the enemy to swell without even firing a shot.
Yeah, that's not good.
Anybody who's watched Walking Dead knows what that's like. One thing I have a bone to pick with The Walking Dead.
Okay.
It's like they have all these settlements of people living together, and a lot of them are just like they go into their bedrooms and leave their door open and they go to sleep. How many people die in their sleep and then get up and go kill people?
Well,
right? Like you have a fat guy die of sleep apnea in The Walking Dead, and he's just going to go around killing everybody in their sleep. It's a terrible idea.
I haven't watched The Walking
Dead,
so.
Well, it's just something to think about. Anyways, the Sisters of the Order of the Sable Rose valiantly held on to protect the planet's most sacred of resting places. Countless numbers of the foe were slaughtered in the defense of the sanctuary of St. Tristan, beloved before they were eventually devoured by ravening hordes of plague zombies. Adeptus Astartes of the Ironhounds chapter were also present on Martyr's Rest to help defend the resting place of fellow Astartes, and they died in this final service. This is kind of a representation. What happened on this world is a representation of what happened in a lot of these worlds. Like the Imperium tried. They really tried, but in the end, it just wasn't enough against the grinding advance of the of the Death Guard. And I apologize if I may not have extracted enough of these from the notes, but it's like there's quite a bit of it, and it really shows you what it's like to fight the Death Guard.
Did the Iron Hounds get wiped out completely, or just the forces that were there?
No, it's like the ones that were there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just curious if they.
most of the Space Marine chapters, like the only Space Marine chapter that had pretty much all of their number, was the what are they called? The Mortifiers or whatever it is they're called.
Oh, okay.
And there's no pictures of these guys either.
Yeah.
The Excruciators, that's it. The Excruciators, there's no pictures of them. They're a new chapter for this book.
Yeah.
So it's up to, if anybody wants to play them, have a look. Maybe they might show up in one of the White Dwarfs coming up.
Yeah. All right. Alamax system. So the assault on Alamax was led by Plague Captain. Whoa.
This guy's great.
Oglismus Bilge. Oglismus.
What a great
Yeah.
name.
Aboard his plague ship,
It's even better, right?
Okay.
I love this guy.
Okay. I'll get this through. Aboard his plague ship, the Canker Sore. Yeah. Okay. Give me a second. Okay. So, followed by a flotilla of plague ships and plague hulks, all bursting with horribly corrupted troops and munitions, including the Titan Legio Morbidus. Although they had been dealing with orc pirates for quite some time, the Alamax system was not as badly besieged as the Cromad system had been by the Drakari. Okay. The Canker Sore, followed by a flotilla
So
of
great.
plague ships and plague hulks. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Good stuff, man. All bursting.
Some people don't like it. Some people think the Death Guard are a little too goofy. I love them.
All
I think they're
bursting
great.
with horribly corrupted troops.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotta stay professional. Okay. Still,
No, you don't.
still, they were unprepared for any assault. The system was not on any major warp thoroughfare, and Alamax was not a key system of importance to the Imperium. They did not have either the defenses or the reinforcements enjoyed by the Cromad system. Contrary-wise, the system's vast agricultural resources would prove vital to the Death Guard's war machine going forward. The situation was made worse because Fabricator Kling assumed Chaos forces wouldn't be able to navigate through its miasma. Only the salt-of-the-earth imperialistic attitude of the rural populations of Alamax would provide any resistance to the Death Guard threat. Ironically,
I'm personally a little tired of GW, like the salt of the earth, just regular folks doing their folksy stuff can fight against the horribleness of the galaxy. Stiff upper lip, governor. It's getting a little tired. Just saying.
sorry, I'm still on Canker Sore. Okay, I mean, let's just be honest. I haven't gotten past that 12-year-old part of my personality. All right. Ironically, it would be the orcs who would deliver a means of escape for many refugees from the Alamax system as the fighting there came to a close. They singled out and picked off the smaller bands of independently operating heretic forces. By the time the Plague Fleet eliminated the orc threat, several Imperial ships had fled. Oh, well, that's nice. It's nice of them.
Yeah, they were able to sneak away.
Yeah.
So the worlds here are the main one is Borthrios, signature world of the Alamax system. People exemplified the self-sufficient nature of the system settlers. Each community kept the sarcasm is a little too heavy here. They largely kept to themselves. It's like an entire world of people who are self-sufficient individuals. Like, okay, a whole world of that? What, does everybody have their own like 5 acres or something? And I don't get it.
Yeah.
Anyways, they kept to themselves until the Mechanicus attempted to wipe them out from orbit. Because the Mechanicus heard, from they got a phone a friend that the place was ill and sick. They tried to wipe out half the population from orbit,
It's the only way to be
And
sure.
Fabricator General Kling's Fabricator General Kling's eradication arc wiped out most of the life in that section. So there was this huge surge of refugees from the edge of the cleansing zone, like people all like partially irradiated.
Oh.
It was not something that the planetary government had ever experienced before. And it really did a poor job of managing the needs of these people, because all the people are so self-sufficient that the government can't take care of them, because the government's not used to taking care of them.
Mm-hmm.
As such, the corruption and disease were rampant, because like all these refugee camps didn't have any medical attention or anything like that. So the Death Guard found it really easy to take the planet. It was made even easier because the refugees were followed by other survivors from within the rad zone. Because in that rad zone, there actually were a bunch of plague zombies already.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, ooh, radiation, this feels good.
You're bathing in it.
So several of the engagements are detailed in the article. One of them, the Night Lords, actually were there, and their cults attempted to wipe out some settlements of the woodsmen who put up these. There's a bunch of lumberjacks,
Mm-hmm. I
I guess, on the world.
Yeah.
And the lumberjacks fought them off with hunting rifles and chainsaws. The Shadow Flayers Space Marines themselves had to intervene in order to exterminate the logging communities. So, in another very vivid account, the Astra Militarum fought against a Nurgle cult called the Plague Children. The battlefield was a dried up seabed amongst the colossal remains of extinct crustaceans and other sea monsters. That sounds like a really fun game to play out on the tabletop.
Yeah.
Getting a bunch of like skeleton, like fish bones and crustacean exoskeletons that you can get those. Just go to a restaurant and eat some crabs and stuff,
okay.
and get it. Well, you can clean it up with some mild acid. Like I think if you put them in lemon juice, I can't remember what it is, or milk. I forget. Yeah, lactic acid. I think it really cleans them out and gets them.
Okay.
You know what? Don't ask me. Ask a taxidermy website.
Yeah.
And you can clean those up pretty good. Or go to the pet store and buy yourself fake ones like a coward.
Yeah, I think I'll go to the pet store. Or get a 3D printer.
In that oh yeah, that's right. I could do that too. In that story, a psyker exploded in a shower of Nurglings who ate his still living body. Good for him.
Nice.
So he exploded, was still alive, and then the Nurglings ate him anyways. The ultimate battle was fought over the world's only real city and spaceport, the Bothrian. Among its defenders, led by General Sonnen Akater, were several Astra Militarum regiments. I won't detail all of them here. Also a Freeblade Knight Valiant known as the Godslayer.
Wow.
Many of the human forces were either experienced with fighting against orc pirates, or trained by those who were, including the general himself.
Nice.
Unfortunately for the well-drilled and tenacious warriors of Bothrian, the attacking forces consisted of a contingent of iron warriors known as Abrael's Claw. This is where we're talking about these guys.
Okay.
Abrael, coincidentally, is the name of a French seaman who served both in World War I and World War II, who saved lives at Dunkirk, but then collaborated with Nazi sympathizers later in the war. Probably no relation, but I thought that was an interesting tidbit.
Yeah.
The Iron Warriors could easily pinpoint the location of any artillery fire and eliminate it. So, anytime the defenders fired a shot at the Iron Warriors were like, oh, it came from right there, and they blew up the artillery. They could effortlessly avoid any defensive fire points. Like they knew where they could tell just by second nature where bad pillboxes were or crossfire spots were. Right. And they could just avoid those, and they knew exactly where to hit the defenses to have the easiest way of entering the defended areas. Bothrian had no hope whatsoever of victory. no matter how stiff their upper lip was.
Right. All right. So now we're on to Heliotire. Or Heliotire. The mining world of Heliotire was assaulted by the Death Guard with Legio Morbidus, led by their Bale Queen at the vanguard. Some traitor legios are not defended by a Dark Mechanicus equivalent of Skitarii warriors, and are instead followed and worshipped by cultists who see the Titans as gods, such as the case of Legio Morbidus. Wherever they stomped about on the surface of the world, the cultists filled in the nooks and crannies, wiping out and enslaving the defenders. Even the mighty Ogren and deft Ratlings eventually gave in to the intractable hordes of the Nurgle cults. One such interesting cult the text speaks of is one led by an individual called Queen Virolia, who comes across as a preening liege to hundreds of thousands of plague zombies. Oh, yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, man, that is kind of awesome. She has fully realized her delusional state and is currently ruling a subterranean hive sprawl on Heliotire. That is a pretty cool character idea.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure it's like great for a Warhammer army, but it's cool for the story.
Yeah, it is. I don't even know how we would. I'm sure there's a way to.
I mean, I guess you could have a chaos sorcerer and a bunch of plague zombies.
Yeah, it'd probably be that. Yeah. So throughout the fighting, the Imperial forces did manage to kill a few Titans. One of them, the Reaver Titan Walking Dread, was destroyed.
Gosh darn it! I didn't even notice that.
Was destroyed by the first Heliotirian Lancers, a tank regiment, before they were wiped out by the Legio, and also a Warlord Titan, the Doomskull. The Warlord was mostly intact, but lying face down in a crater, so some of the Imperial commanders got it in their heads that capturing the traitor Titan and reappropriating it to the Imperial cause was a good use of what few resources they had left. I knew they were going to do that. It's going to go badly, I bet. Let's see.
What?
I haven't finished reading yet. The tech priests on hand expressed their extreme dubiousness over the possibility of success in this operation because they're bright. But of course, the jock commanders never listen to nerds in these movies. Yeah, this is going to be real bad. This, of course, proved to be a really terrible idea. The battle for the Titan was extremely costly, but a small number of the committed forces managed to breach the hull with their protesting tech priests in tow. Of course, they found the inner workings, the entire inner workings of the Titan were not, in fact, machinery, but demonically and corrupted organs. When the remaining survivors evacuated the hull, they were met by a pair of traitor warhounds who burned them to a cinder where they stood. Yeah, I knew where this was going. I didn't know it was going to end like that, but, you know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Like, yeah.
These Titans are not they're not actual Titans anymore. They are monsters filled with gross.
We can get into that running car over there, or we can go hide in the garage,
the murder shack.
The murder shack. Yeah, let's go with murder shack. It's going to be much safer than that, running Toyota over there. Okay, sorry, I'm done. That. Oof. Okay.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
Another really important world was St. Bartolph's Throne. We'll talk a little bit more about this place later as well. But there's a few little anecdotes from here. Colonel Elena Broski and her Cadian 727th held out against the Death Guard incursion on St. Bartolph's Throne with the kind of distinction one would expect from a regiment of well-drilled Cadians. There are lots of Cadian regiments here.
Yeah.
Like so many. I can try to find the page. I'll tell you exactly how many Cadians. Yeah, well, that's the main thing, right? 262 regiments of Cadian shock troops.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, humanity, man.
Yeah.
So the war ground on for some time, 18 cycles. which is either 18 days or 18 weeks, who knows, before even Lord Bilge got fed up and threw one of Fabricator General Kling's extermination arcs, which had just irradiated Borthrias, into the main hive city, thus collapsing most of the world's planetary defenses. He's like, oh, these eradication arcs are annoying. Let me throw one at your planet. Still, the manufacturer producing Lehman Russ continued to do so throughout the assault. Tanks were driven into the teeth of the enemy, only to be destroyed. The crew returned to the hive so they could man new tanks and drive back out and attack the enemy again. Eventually, however, every corner of the world was overrun.
Wow.
I believe that's a story we've heard before, where they're like, oh, tank's finished. All right, send it out to fight again.
Yeah.
So there's a quote about the Cadians. So this is one thing I wanted to note about this, actually, was the book is full of quotes, and they don't sidebar all of them. So like there are little narrative sections that are, prose. Yeah. Talking, like novel, like prose, but it's not bad prose, and it's not the whole book. Most of the book is more like a history text. Right. But interspersed are these little quotes, which add texture to the setting. So against them stood under the understrength 727th. An eyewitness account from amongst the colonel's aides revealed how even with so overwhelming a force assailing the worlds under her protection, Broski remained icily calm. I don't think the colonel believed she could win. She wasn't a fool. Throne, never that, but she was Cadian. And of rank. You're not one of us. So you wouldn't understand what that means now more than ever. Cadia stands always. So then, so must we, no matter the odds. So, the Cadians are not only like well trained and well drilled and whatever, but now they have this directive almost, to make up for their losses and to show the galaxy that they're still good enough, and also to wreak vengeance upon those who destroyed their planet. So it's clear that last story did make the author question, albeit briefly, how the Death Guard are capable of such a monumental task. So there's a small blurb reminding us that it is not really the traitor Astartes themselves micromanaging such operations. They leave it to their teeming masses of faithful cultists to suppress the bulk of a world's citizenry. So the process is very similar to that of loyalist forces, to be honest. And it might seem like these little changes in the day-to-day lives for most survivors, well, they just have a few more pustules, a few more lesions that they never really die from, which is nice. So their lives really aren't changing much going from the Imperium to Chaos rule. Once they've been conquered, that is. So the primary threats posed by the Chaos cults in these situations are the Underhive gangs and the Gene Stealer cults, who they sometimes must rely on their masters for assistance with. Like, these cults of regular human followers of the traitor legions, they might have a tough time fighting against the gangers and the Gene Stealer cults. But they don't want to call on help from their superiors because that would show weakness, or it would show that they're unable to lead effectively. So it's that kind of fear that leads to disaster, at least in this case, right? Like, so if the gangs do take over, then it was because the cultists were too afraid to bring in their superiors to just stamp out the problem before it got too big. But again, the Death Guard aren't going to conquer an entire planet. Just like just the Ultramarines aren't going to conquer an entire planet. They rely on other elements of the Imperium to do 90% of the conquering. or at least 90% of the administration. I mean, it's weird to talk about chaos cults administrating, but they have to.
Yeah.
They still have to manage the workings of a planet. They Are Us tells a story of a remnant of Cadians and gangers fighting for survival in the ruins of Hive Grangus, and that's another good one. That was a good little short story in one of the White Dwarfs.
I'll have to go through and look at that real quick. All right. So now we have the Gildress system. So the goings-on of the Gildress system is briefly detailed in White Dwarf 462 for Flashpoint Charadon. The system is ruled mainly by the Excruciators chapter and their serfs. Their chapter world, Motulu, is the most habitable world in the system, with the rest of the worlds being very harsh environments indeed. Each world represents an element that satisfies the simple animalistic mythology of the Excruciator serfs. Oh, that's interesting. So, loads of ships escaping the Death Guard from throughout Charadon, especially St. Bartolph's throne, which had held on for so long, came to the Gildress system, desperately seeking succor. Unfortunately, the remote systems had no infrastructure for providing the kind of care the people or equipment of the fleeing refugees needed. A Space Marine chapter and its serfs are largely self-sufficient, but very little else existed at Gildress. Most of its worlds were uninhabitable by any amount of people, much less the teeming thousands that were arriving daily. For many of the vessels anchored in the Gildress system, as with any other systems throughout the region, this would be their last port. The diseases rampant on some of the ships ran their course and consumed the ships from within. Wow.
Yeah, a lot of the refugees never really, if they didn't make it anywhere, that was probably for the best.
Yeah.
Because they're plague ships in and of themselves without them even realizing it. Motulu is a Space Marine homeworld, represents all form elements in the mythology of the people of Motulu. The terrain is mountainous volcanic islands on vast seas. I should start singing singing songs from Moana. Moana, make way, make way. I love that movie. The Pyre of Mahuit is a forest death world. Now, it's not a jungle death world. It's a forest death world that represents the element of fire in the mythology of the people of Motulu. The world is hot, dry, and forested. It's racked by planet-wide forest fires.
Wow.
Any refugees relocated here would survive for a time, but would eventually either burn or suffocate to death. So imagine just on a really fast, similar to the pine forests that if once they burn, they grow again.
Yeah.
And the only way they can grow new saplings is to burn.
Yeah.
Imagine this on a really fast cycle, like yearly burning and growing cycle. So then we have the Cradle of Sinotan, a mountain world, which represents the element of earth in their mythology. The stone here is extremely dense and has many uses to the people of the system, but little actual use technologically. It's a dry world, which is extremely tectonically active. Any number of people would likely starve to death or be crushed to death in landslides. Another planet called the Rage of Rogankwa is an oceanic death world. It represents the element of water to their mythology, and the few high peaks on this world are swallowed by the ocean for most of the year. The extreme weather makes it impossible to build floating cities.
Wow. That's a trip.
These worlds are not nice.
No, not at all. Not at all. So the Wheel of Fatua, I think that's how you pronounce it, is a spatial anomaly which represents the element of air to the people of Motulu. It is a strange belt-shaped current which circles the Gildrian star. Over the course of the star's existence, the wheel has collected all manners of detritus, such as comets, asteroids, and even ships. As such, it has been deemed too dangerous to navigate by most vessels. This made an excellent staging ground for attack, not only from Typhus's forces, but also pirates of the Orc, Human, and Drukhari variety. The enemy was able to find comfortable places on the leeward side of the more significant flotsam and lie in wait for distressed ships arriving in the system from other war zones. Yep. Eventually, the Excruciators were able to determine that this threat existed, and they were able to hatch a plan to clean the place up. They found most of the resistance by the pirates to be quite manageable, but the Alpha Legion base they uncovered on a large asteroid surrounded by salvage proved to be a deadly trap that took a great deal of lives and resources to pacify. Ooh, that could be a fun one. Especially if you were doing Alpha Legion.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. That'd be. Oh, there's actually a mission for this in one of the books.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next we have the Roedor system. Roedor system was extremely well equipped and well defended. It had the production and resources to fortify many of the besieged worlds throughout the sector. However, the bureaucracy of Roedor prioritized self-defense over response to other systems. It pressed their own citizens even harder to increase output at its manufacturer. When people dropped dead from exhaustion, they were replaced with refugees. As in other systems, refugees carried disease with them.
Yeah.
The Hedrosh penal world was hard hit by the plague carriers, and many refugee ships fell silent. During the War of Rust and Slime, huge swaths of the hive world of St. Epstein's Gift was irradiated by Fabricator General Kling's eradication arcs, instantly turning the sick and healthy to ash on the wind.
All we are is dust in the wind.
So nice. Yeah. Dust in the wind. Excuse me.
Yeah. All right. So, Duralium system. Named after an important metal ore, Typhus himself aboard the Terminus Est assaulted the Duralium system. They had not traveled the safe warp byways that the Imperium used. This would have put them under attack by forces guarding the apertures to these routes. Instead, they found a way to rip their way through the warp and translocate right above the system. Because, yeah. Such a maneuver could not have been possible without some incredible sacrifice.
They fell through a plot hole.
There you go. Well, you know, the plot hole's large enough. You get anything through there.
Yeah.
So that could not have been possible without some incredible sacrifice or esoteric design. More than likely a 1,000-sun sorcerer, but, you know. Possible. Only a couple of fast frigates made it away while the system was soundly taken by the invasion fleet. Even the presence of an Eradicator arc could not help quell the uprising on the planets, which moved to support the strikes from above. The beachhead, as costly as it likely had been, was secured. So let's see, we have Alextor. The chief cardinal world of the region was Alextor, and Typhus targeted early and personally. Nice. Without the center of faith, morale, and martial might, a real blow would be struck against the Imperium. However, while waging war here, Typhus suffered a grievous injury by Canoness Joghild before he eventually killed her.
Pretty sure that it's Joghild.
Joghild? Sure. Joghild. The wound through his chest, wow, refused to heal no matter which of Grandfather's gifts he attempted to use to solve. That's impressive.
By the end of the book, he still hasn't healed this wound.
Interesting. That is.
Yeah, there's a full page narrative about it, and she stabs him real hard with a magic sword. Okay,
well, that's what you gotta do to take out Typhus. After he moved on to other fronts, House Raven appeared and liberated the world once more. This had obviously been roused by the Excruciators and marched to Crusade. Typhus was furious.
Oh yeah, he was not happy about that.
No.
He comes back later. He's like, "Oh, okay, we'll come back and get it." That world changes hands a bunch of times during this war. The Furor system, there's a second wave. During the second wave of assault, the key system of Furor was assaulted from Alumax by demonic hordes. Again, we're throwing these proper nouns out there. All you need to know is that the demons attacked from the first one of the first systems attacked from like the rift basically, and then it became a stepping stone to here. So the world of Fathom was the main target. It's made of pure water that never seemed to deplete despite the endless mining by the Mechanicus. Even its fauna seemed to be resistant to the pollution excreted by the extraction process.
Wow.
It's almost as if there's like a hole in the elemental plane of water, like in D&D. This place was impossible for Rodriguez to resist. He planted the seeds of corruption under the waves, and in just a few cycles, his demons were assaulting the water rigs on floating rafts of sludge. It's pretty cool. There's a mission for this one, too. Pretty cool. Then we have the Byzantia system. Again, this is another important one later. Once Duranium fell, it wasn't long before the attacking forces made use of the warp lane between there and Byzantius. The prison world of Unhallow was the target of the eradication arcs after widespread mutation was reported to the Mechanicus. So it's like this huge scorched earth. The Mechanicus is doing this scorched earth campaign while the Death Guard are doing literally the opposite of a scorched earth campaign.
Yeah.
Which is a weird reversal, actually. Well, not really. The Imperium has a tendency to do this too, all the time. So yeah, this system this region also has the Metallica system, but there's a lot more talk about that later.
Yep. All right, off to the Lyric subsector. Remember, the worlds of this subsector intentionally resist technological advancement. This may have turned to their advantage. Of course, the narrative of the strong and resourceful, self-reliant pilgrim is somewhat tired, but there's some truth to it. Also, the subsector's low profile may have helped spare them from major invasions throughout history. Yeah, if you don't know it's there, you're not going to invade it. Yeah, like no one wants to invade, like, the middle of nowhere.
We don't want to insult. Yeah, we'll just say the middle of nowhere. Let's not get specific about Kansas. What?
So much of Typhus's plan and Lyric, I'm just ignore that, was executed as a distraction. The other Traitor Legion warbands were better suited for this task than the Death Guard. If he could keep the Space Marines and House Raven occupied at home, he would have an easier time taking Metallica. So some systems in the Lyric subsector. We have the Imbor system, which was a producer for the Imperium, but was subject of rumor and myth. Strange going-ons were always part of the system's narrative. It is not known that the system suffers from a gene stealer cult activity. Yay! Good way to get those guys into the story. So, with the periodic incursions of High Fleet Leviathan from beneath the galactic plane in the sector, they may be due for a visit. Whatever the case, the world of Daku was able to repel their Chaos interlopers thanks to the intervention of the Gene Stealer cult, which, to be honest, is kind of a 6 of one and a half of a dozen of another type of situation. Yeah, that's just not even,
I mean, you deal with the devil or the devil at this point, so it's kind of whatever. At least with the Gene Stealer cult there, you can still watch your stories on television or whatever.
That's true.
Right? The Eladog system is really interesting. It's got a neat... I like this for kind of helping folks see the... diversity of the Imperium and how you can kind of create a self-sustaining, I guess if you're going to run like a role-playing campaign, I think this system would be a cool one to model your campaign after. It's marked by a nearby warp route, and it's known for its influence of the ecclesiarchy over all its activities. Yeah. So the first one is a Denthria, a penitent mining world. Most of the refugees from outside the system were redirected to the sandy wastes of Denthria. Many plague-ridden refugees died here and rose again to attack their former friends and allies. Things were made worse by the word bearers who orchestrated the summoning of demons. Unfortunately for all these enemies, and they actually like they beseech Nurgle and stuff.
Mhm.
Like they actually call him out by name. Like word bearers are equal opportunity employees of the gods, just like Abaddon.
Yeah.
But I would assume each individual one might be swayed by a specific god more than another, because they don't really have Abaddon's will. Anyways, so unfortunately for all these enemies, the world had a tendency to sandblast its denizens to death with powerful sandstorms if they weren't careful enough.
Yeah.
The locals were used to such things, so they were able to take cover and wait the whole thing to blow over, literally. So I guess they were fine.
Yeah.
I guess there's a story called "The Terrors of the Sands" that tells us some word bearers driving around on bikes, killing a bunch of Astra Militarum. It's an objectively bad story with terrible dialogue. I hated that story. It's all written by the same person. So the first two were really good. This one was just the worst.
Yeah.
I would have liked to hear about how. I would have more liked to hear about how the locals got one over on the word bearers and they were sandblasted to death. That would have been more cool.
Yeah.
Instead, there was just a story about the word bearers killing people. It was really stupid. Then we have Pauline, which is a merchant world. This is cool. Most of the activity is in orbit aboard the Ring of Commerce, where trade houses vied for control from each other. The wars caused tensions between the houses to be more strained than usual as trade between the systems dried up. These tensions were escalated to war, internal war between each other, with the involvement of the Alpha Legion. So we're seeing how the other traitor legions are being used to stymie response from other worlds in this other subsector. Then we have Vicatrina, the Cardinal world. Vicatrina was an annoyance to the merchants of Pauline. On the surface, condemning the merchants for their idolatry, worshiping the almighty throne,
Yeah.
whatever they're calling it, while simultaneously demanding tribute / bribes to the ecclesiarchy all the time. It's like, it's such a cool, there's a lot of cool, like, little intrigue here, little notes that you can use in your narratives for your factions or your campaigns, I think.
Cool. All right, so we have the Tethys system. Tethys is a fat, bloated red monster star orbited by the night world of Colossi, home to House Raven. Ooh, cool. House Raven benefited mightily from its relationship with Metallica, boasting night suits in the hundreds. Nice.
Right? I had no idea how many night suits Raven had.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, I'm sure.
But you can imagine, like, if Metallica has the STC for these things, well, they're not all just ancient knights from the world's history, right? They wouldn't have had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them on their arc ships going out into the stars. So, the Mechanicus just keeps building them knights. Yeah. Keep going, you guys. Defend us.
So then we have the EOP system. I'm assuming that's EOP. It's not LAP. That's an I.
I think so.
Yeah. The EOP system is a binary star with a small handful of strange planets. A man-made fortress world called Halcydonis, orbited by a hive moon called Jasira?
I think so.
Yeah. Wait in the dark to strike out against the enemies of the Imperium or stand as a bastion against invaders. Elsewhere in the system, a cold, dark little world hid a well-equipped staging ground for the Ordo Xenos. Nice. Very nice. And no one probably knows that it's there either.
Yeah. No, nobody knows it's there. It's just a little cold world that nobody goes to.
Ooh, the map shows the Thousand Suns and the Imperium making an exit from this system in Stage 3 of the war. This doesn't seem to have been mentioned in the text. Okay, good. Good. Okay. Then we have the Cyclo system.
Little tidbits,
yeah. Little tidbits, bring in the suns. Okay. This system is lousy with meteor swarms. This is the Cyclo system. Black shards which seem to come out of nowhere. There's still underground mining operations on the worlds of Cyclos, but they don't get a whole lot of visitors.
Right. So there's just these little places where things are happening, but it's stuff that they're setting up probably for the next part of the war, or they're just giving us texture, and it's nice to get that texture here.
Yeah.
And to talk about how the other traders are, and like the Xenos are having an effect on things going on farther afield. So we're almost done with our lore section. Next we have the stage 3 of the War of Rust and Slime, and where we wrap everything up, at least for the first act of the Book of Rust. Both the Space Marines and House Raven were roused from the Lyriac subsector. Typhus's allies had been largely unsuccessful at stymieing their involvement for any protracted period. So, like, for example, House Raven, like the other Chaos Lord tried to stop them from, like, to keep them in their on their planet, but they were able to push him off. So now these elite warriors were on the move and making a difference along several fronts. Typhus tried to pull back his remaining Death Guard forces to Alimax and leave any cultists and renegade units to fester or die where they stood. So in the Metallica leader isn't the only one who can tuck tail and run. He also allowed the demons to continue to hammer at Metallica, a distraction to his true plans. Dun dun dun. As Typhus's forces consolidated, the worlds that were left behind risked losing their connection to Grandsire Rot. So that's what one of his names lords calls grandfather Nurgle. Yeah,
interesting.
Although it is spelled Rotte, which I assume is like a Northern European thing. Although the strategy of Nurgle is insidious, if the Imperium is aware of its presence, it's just a matter of like tenacity to root out and destroy the source of the malignancy. Most of Nurgle's true gifts require a tether to the warp to persist with any kind of like dangerous potency. I mean, yeah, you're going to have sickness and even, really dangerous supernatural ones, but not for it to really be world conqueringly dangerous. You need a tie to the warp.
Yeah.
So as such, many devices known as miasmic magnifiers, which is a model you can purchase from Games Workshop, were left scattered throughout the region to keep that connection going for as long as possible. And you'll find out why in a little bit. Yeah. And you know what? There was something this is one thing I did miss in the notes talking about that, is that House Raven's homeworld was assaulted by another Chaos Lord, one of the Black Legion lords.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was kind of keeping them pinned down for a little while, but they were able to push them off.
Interesting. That's actually really interesting. Okay, so the Fabricator General still hadn't budged from his throne on Metallica. He had been monitoring the plagues besetting his realm and was fixated on one detail. There was a malignancy in the code. He dared not touch it himself, but the reports from his subordinates were illogical to his orthodoxy. He couldn't bring himself to believe that data, pure machine data, could be corrupted. He was stuck in an endless logic loop and gradually relinquished his attention from the wider war. That's interesting. That's actually really cool little nugget of lore. Also during the fighting, Forge World Demios arrived on the scene. They are the Forge World who serves the Grey Knights specifically and the Ordo Malleus in general. Demios was at one time a moon of Mars, but was located to Titan a long time ago. It's good to assume that Demios doesn't look too kindly upon tech heresy. So, did the planet just show up, or did there people from the Forge World?
The people from the Forge world. Okay, so
and that'd be cool if like a planet just shows up.
Forces.
You know,
right? Yeah, that sounds confusing. So I was just giving a little background on Deimos. Deimos was physically moved from Mars to Titan at one point.
Yeah, but
it's just forces from Forge world. Deimos showed up here. I mean, I'm not gonna say they showed up. They might have shown up to help against Typhus. They might have been showing up anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a little bird chirped in their ear, and they were like, "Yo, you gotta come over here and take care of a problem. We got a dude here. He's not great. Can you help us?" Then they show up and they're like, "What the actual F is going on here?" Right? Like,
I thought I was only dealing with this problem, but there are more. Okay.
There are a lot more problems.
So the Excruciator Space Marines pushed the advance against the enemy on St. Bartolph's throne, alongside all the various Imperial units who'd come to the aid of the sector. They fought and died against a solid wall that was the Death Guard lines. Behind those lines, Typhus and his coterie were reaching the conclusion of a ritual which had been intended to break the Metallican gates. Typhus's would-be ally, Lord Discordant Zed, was nowhere to be seen after fleeing from House Raven, and the Imperium was gaining ground. Huh.
Yeah. I mean, of course he's doing a ritual. They're always doing a ritual. There's always a ritual. Yeah. It always creates some kind of warp rift, and some people die. So he was going to use it to just smash the gates.
Yeah.
Like, just so that there was no resistance when he went to grab Metallica. So instead, he's using it to make a giant warp rift. Typhus had to adjust his plans. The ritual would instead be used to transport his forces to a more stable position, a better attacking position. I'm still a little unclear on like why they didn't just do this in the first place. Yeah. I kind of do. So when the ritual was complete, the planet rapidly rotted to death and consumed anyone who could not escape.
Yeah.
The malignant magnifiers. So this is like part of why I think maybe this was necessary instead. All the malignant magnifiers they had constructed on different worlds across the sector or the subsector were all connected by what the book describes as a mycelial empirical network. So like a network in the warp connecting all of these malignant magnifiers. The powerful rotting energies of Nurgle were transported to these devices, and the plague spewed out throughout the sector on all these planets. That served to both spread Nurgle's gifts, but also like, you know, it rooted those forces there because they had to deal with it instead of coming to the aid of Metallica. The never-born and never-dead presence surged throughout the sector and turned the tide of battle on many worlds back to the side of chaos. Only Sororitas and the Grey Knights seemed totally psychically resistant to the waves of necrotic energy. The Grey Knights are there. I wonder who brought them. Right. So the epicenter of the ritual itself created a conduit through the warp from the remains of the planet to Metallica system itself. A rend in reality appeared in space, a fell light and grasping tentacles reached out from the unreal maw, rusting and corrupting everything it touched. The Imperial forces came to call it the Sore. The Fabricator General was nearly killed by the alarms that reached him on his throne, and he was roused to action, demanding all forces respond to the Metallica system. Yes, help us. We totally helped you earlier, right? By cleansing your planets. Now, even if folks did want to help him, they couldn't because they're being assailed by these malignant magnifiers exploding with activity. He was still very slow to react, his cogitators incredulous that the machine perfection was being challenged so easily. Meanwhile, scrap code was beginning to corrupt the noosphere throughout the region, the internet, basically. the Dark Mechanic, like it's Wi-Fi, space Wi-Fi. The Dark Mechanicus summoned data. The Dark Mechanicus summoned data demons and warp geists into the noosphere and the hardwire data connections of the Mechanicus. Corruption spread with impunity.
Oof. All right. So the hive world of Munisferum was very close to the Soar. That's just so gross. The Soar and its tendrils reached out to corrupt anything it could. Servitors, Skitarii, and tech priests all became dark mechanical thralls in mere moments. Yeah. Civil war broke out across the planet and in orbit. Elsewhere, the Death Guard faced off against veteran Skitarii units, and Legio Morbidus, backed up by renegade knights, faced off against the Iron Skull's Titan Legion and the Free Blade Company, known as the Forgotten Company. Meanwhile, the Sword grew into a proper healthy warp anomaly, threatening to consume the entire system. The Death Guard fleet docked with the scrap code-infested iron rings around Metallica, setting themselves up for an unchecked planetary assault. Wow. All right, so speculation for the future. We've got three things that you put together. So chaos is disjointed and uncooperative nature?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the whole thing is going to go to crap because all the factions of chaos can't get along with each other.
Oh yeah, that's a
thing that happens all the time.
I see Typhus
that seems like
starting it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, are they actually going to make Metallica fall in the lore?
No, probably that's not going to happen. There's no way.
I mean, they should. That would be cool if they did.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if they actually did wipe out Metallica and make it a Dark Mechanicus world.
But our buddy John is going to lose his mind if that happens.
Well, he would have to go back and add dangly bits to all of his knights and Mechanicus guys and repaint all the red purple. It would be cool if they actually did, in the lore, in these books, make Metallica a Dark Mechanicus world, and they brought out Dark Mechanicus models.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
And stuff. Like, actually make it a faction in the lore. That would be really interesting. I don't know if that's what's going to happen.
All right.
But yeah, that schism between Typhus and Zeed, they do talk about in the book that Typhus communes with the grandfather and eventually does learn what Zeed is up to after his defeat by House Raven. But it's not revealed to the reader.
Right.
So this is kind of what I'm alluding to with, like, it's going to be their eventual downfall. I would like to see Forge World Demios censure King for what he did in his tech heresy. So like I said, I think maybe that's why they're here, actually.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know if they're... but again, I think it would be neater to have a new faction, a new, like, Dark Mechanicus faction that the Chaos players can use alongside their Chaos Space Marines and stuff like that. Traitor Guard, but maybe it might be asking a little bit too much. Right? Like, let's not get crazy. As far as models are concerned, I think we did see, orcs coming and stuff. So I wonder if orcs are going to be a part of the next stage, but I don't know. It's hard to say. The future is muddy.
Right. And
what do you think?
Yeah. I think that's, I don't know. This is interesting. I'm curious how this is going to play out. I'm kind of curious as to where the Thousand Suns are going to fit into this, because we know they're showing up.
Yeah, right. Like, are we going to get more involvement in the other subsector with all the other traitor legions? Is Abaddon going to show up and wrangle this whole mess together? And, like, you done messed up, kid. Or, I mean, Typhus seems to be on a good footing right now. So, the only thing that could cause problems is internal strife, which I definitely see some internal strife happening. Or the Ultramarines show up, save the day. I'm sure everybody would appreciate that.
Yeah, because we don't need that God in the Machine thing happening. Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about the rules in the war. Not all the rules.
Some of them.
Let's make this clear. We're not going to go over any of the faction rules. We're not going to go over any of that stuff. That's for another day, and also for another podcast, maybe. But we're going to go over the Crusade rules and stuff for Warzone Charadon. We'll be right back. Potty break, I need to have a potty break. I gotta pee, I've had a coffee, and some water, and some coffee, and then some coffee again.
Greetings, mofos.
Are you out of George Dickel number 8, staring at a broken chess machine?
Well, don't want to spend the rest of the year tied to that couch?
Well, why don't you head on over to the 1 Hour a Night Facebook page and see what exciting stuff is going on there. It's a place to post all your daily progress in the hobby grind, as well as receive and give positive feedback. Also, there are usually a few interesting challenges going on.
That's right. All you have to do is search for 1 Hour a Night on Facebook. That's numeral 1 Hour a Night, all one word. Blood serum tests will be administered prior to approval.
Se til helvete og kom dere vekk. Det ikke bikkje, det en slags ting. Den imiterer bikkje, men det ikke det. Kom dere vekk, idioter!
What he said.
Hello, everyone. The Masters of the Forge is now a proud member of the NPC, the Narrative Podcast Consortium. Our aim is to inspire your hobby through the rich lore of the 41st millennium. If you enjoy our podcast, then make sure to check out these other awesome shows, where you can get coverage on campaigns, Black Library, and all kinds of general topics of the 40K background.
The NGC 40K podcast also provides in-depth campaign coverage, audio dramas, and free-flowing narrative campaign creation.
The Adeptus Terra podcast also features in-depth discussions of the lore and commentary on the hobby.
Oh, and sexy English voices.
Oh, yeah.
The Masters of the Forge brings the world of 40K to life on your tabletop, with discussion on the lore, backed up by narrative-themed rules and battle reports.
Of course, this is only a fraction of the topics covered by the podcasts of the NPC. Please tune in to find out more.
Welcome back. So, the White Dwarf articles are interesting. They didn't include as much of the stuff that they did for the Pariah Nexus. Mm-hmm. A lot of the heavy lifting is being done with the Book of Rust itself, the campaign setting. So all the campaign rules and stuff are in there. The White Dwarfs include more information about the sector itself.
Yeah.
And a bunch of theaters of war and a few Crusade rules. So they're very supplementary. So for these, we're going to go through them quickly. Mm-hmm. We're already like 2.5 hours in the recording.
Yeah.
And it's 10:30 on a Monday night. But we're not going to skimp you.
Nope.
We're not going to skimp you people.
You get to deal with us. That's what happens when you download us. You deal with us.
You deal with it. Yeah, well, they can always just stop it.
Oh, they can fast forward.
I mean, well, let's not tell them.
No. You're stuck with us.
We can't have that. Yeah, you're stuck with us.
Like a particularly virulent, hold on, have to keep it PG rated. Canker sore. Mm-hmm. There you go.
Canker, yes, like a spaceship.
Yeah, like a spaceship, yeah.
Named Canker. Ugh. So the first magazine, issue 460, is the Cromid system. Mm-hmm. They talk about a bunch of the planets and cities and stuff in that area. And the first theater of war is the Okarium City Ruins. And it's got some rules for bombed battlefield, which is one of them. You can roll a D3 and consult the table. Do you have a dice on you?
Yes, I do. I have a Masters of the Forge die.
You do? Ooh, okay, roll it. Let's see what the bombed battlefield effect we're going to have is for our game that we're playing on the Akarium City Ruins.
We are looking at a 2. Torn up streets.
2. Yeah.
Subtract 1 from advance rolls and charge rolls made for vehicle and bike units, excluding Titanic models and units that can fly. Nice.
Right. So yeah, that's pretty cool. The streets are not in good shape.
Yeah.
Okay. So also in building and ruins terrain features, you could have some booby traps. Why don't you roll this one?
Okay, so this one's fun. It's a D6. So 1 through 4 is a false alarm, no effect, which I rolled a 4. But you could have an anti-personnel mine or rigged to blow. So, yeah.
Either suffering 1 mortal wound or 1 mortal wound, and when you make a ranged attack, you have -1 to hit. And they're not crippling.
Yeah.
They're just interesting effects. So also in this, you could have some unexploded biologic ordnance.
Yeah. That's kind of disgusting.
So both players place down 2 tokens each on the battlefield. So let's pretend one of them exploded.
Okay.
So what they'll do is they'll explode on like a 6 for battle round 1 and a 5 for battle round 2, etc., etc., etc. And you roll for each one.
Okay.
When it explodes, we consult the table. Let's pretend one of them exploded.
Okay, so I rolled my Masters of the Forge die, and our insignia, our icon, is the 6, and I rolled a 6, which is
what is that one?
Disgusting, of course. Devouring insects. While a model is within 6 inches of this ordnance token, each time that model makes a ranged attack, on an unmodified hit roll of 1, the model's unit suffers 1 mortal wound after shooting. That's cool. That is cool.
That is neat. And there's one for each die roll too. So there's some cool ones in here. I like this one.
Yeah.
And again, it can be different for each one, and they're not there the whole game unless you roll real bad or good, depending, The next one is the Martyr's Rest Mausoleum District. I like this one a lot. I think this is fun. It has a lot to do with like The Walking Dead or the undead and stuff. The first one is the Spirits of the Dead, which is just an ongoing effect. And you roll a D3, and the on a 1, there's the spirits are at rest. There's no effect. It's on number 2, they're vengeful spirits.
Ooh.
And you take a -1 to leadership characteristic models in the unit. And if this unit was destroyed by enemy units, add 1 to the leadership characteristic of models in this unit instead.
Yeah.
So as long as you're aggressive, you'll be fine.
And what was the last one? Peaceful spirits. So add 1 to leadership.
It's the other way around. Yeah.
This is kind of nice. This is actually kind of a fun. What is this? This is a fun little special rule, to be honest, for the theater.
Yeah, like it, I don't know. I guess it's representing like the dead people in your unit, or the dead people, the people that you killed, and their effect on you. So the next one is Sanctified Blessings. This is on structures. Like you'll put this on structures. So why don't you roll this one up, Jason?
So I got a 1, which is inscribed with benedictions. Add 1 to deny the witch tests taken for units within this terrain feature. That's pretty nice.
Cool. Yeah. The next one is Voices in the Darkness. So you start at the start of every round, you roll this.
Okay.
And there might be a different effect. So we're going to pretend it's like turn 3 and you're rolling for Voices in the Darkness. Let's go.
All right. So I rolled a 5, Emboldening Tales. Add 1 to combat attrition tests. Oh, that's pretty nice.
Oh, neat. Yeah, the dead. So this is all about the dead of the people of the world.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're bolstering you. It's not all bad. It's not all bad stuff.
Yeah. And there's some nice little.
So I really like the Mars Rust ones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I like
Resonant Psalms.
Oh.
Yeah.
Add 3 inches to the range of the unit's aura abilities.
That's kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. And Screaming
This next we have
it's pretty nice too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
-3.
Yeah.
-3 inches to the because it's so loud and cacophonous that you can't give orders properly.
Yeah. I think those are both pretty cool.
Nice. So the next like war zone ability, what are we calling these? Theater of War, sorry. The next Theater of War is Dyrok's Reach Desert Badlands, which, radiation, magnetic mineral compounds, always making things difficult to target and notice stuff.
Yeah.
So there are mineral deposits here. Why don't you roll a dice and see how it's going to affect our game?
So I rolled a 6 again, and that's Glittering Silica, which is an aura. While a unit is within range of this objective marker, each time an attack is made against that unit, that attack's hit rolls cannot be re-rolled. That's kind of cool.
So you don't get your re-rolls, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then we have on that same planet we have cavernous tunnel networks. And that's basically just a system for relocating units. They'll jump into a hole and come out another hole on the edge of the battlefield. But next we have intolerable heat.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting. We're not going to roll this or anything like that. But what it does is it has worsening effects the hotter it gets. And you're just going to add at least 1 to the current heat level. Every turn it gets worse and worse and worse. I thought that was really cool.
Well, it's
like solar flare is like the level 6.
Yeah.
Is subtract 2 from advance and charge rolls, and each time a ranged attack targets a unit, the attacker is more than 6 inches away from that unit. Subtract 1 from the attack's hit roll. So like it's so hazy and hot, and you're being so oppressed that you're extremely hindered.
What's funny is I rolled that before we talked about it, and I rolled a 6.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty.
So, Chromid Crusade relics. We each picked one. Jason, which one did you pick?
I picked up the Antiquity relic, Resilient Cuirass. Has a really nice little text box. It's impossible to determine what technology powers this ancient cuirass, but somehow it makes the wearer remarkably resilient to the hideous plague weaponry of the Death Guard. So you're not affected by aura abilities of enemy units, and each time an attack is made against the bearer, subtract 1 from the strength characteristic of that attack. That's kind of cool.
Oh, that's great, because the Death Guard, they have a minus toughness aura.
Yeah.
So you're not affected by that. That's great.
Yeah.
I picked Lost Archaeosites. This unique thermal vision sight once belonged to a long-dead warrior. The technology of it is of unknown provenance, but it is powerful enough to cut through any disruption to the wearer's vision. I like this. This is so cool. In your command phase, select one friendly unit with the troop's battlefield roll within 6 inches of the bearer. Until the start of your next command phase, each time a model in that unit makes a ranged attack, you can ignore any hit roll or modifiers for that attack.
Well, that's pretty cool.
So they can shoot. You can direct them to fight or to see things that they normally wouldn't be able to see very easily. So that is issue 460.
Yeah, some good stuff in there.
Oh, yeah. There's also like an index of Astartes for the Emperor's Spears, which we might cover at another time. Actually, it would have been good to cover it when we did the Spears of the Emperor book, but that's what it is.
That's fine. That works for me. I think it'd be good. So shall we go to White Dwarf 461?
White Dwarf 461. Yeah. So, it's not that I'm talking to keep things, keep the dead air at bay while I flip through the pages here.
In this episode, or in this issue, there's a really cool. Let me see. What is it? Noise Marines by a guy named John Ashton. Really nice. Page 60. Oh, and a really sweet Renegade Knight on 61.
Yeah, they're really beautiful, and this is the issue that has the new Maelstrom of War rules too. So we have, this is neat. I like this one. This is cool. The Heliotier penal compound. It has a rule for searchlights.
Oh, that's
which is really fun. Yeah, at the start of the battle round, identify the 6 units closest to the center of the battlefield and assign each a number 1 to 6. Roll 1d6 until the end of the battle round. The unit assigned to that number is targeted by the compound searchlights.
Oh.
So each time a model makes a ranged attack, they can ignore the lookout sir rule if they target that unit. So if it's like a character, you can shoot them down because they got the searchlight on them. And each time a ranged attack is made against that unit, an unmodified wound roll of a 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any normal damage. Ooh. So like being, it's like a laser target.
Lasers.
Okay, so the next piece to this Theater of War is perpetual smog. So it's the mining operations kicking up dust and pollutants and stuff. So roll a d3.
Okay. I was just thinking, I'm currently reading Dune, and this kind of reminds me of like spice mining. All right. So I rolled a 1. I actually rolled a 1. Dust storms. Each time a ranged attack targets a unit, if the attacker is more than 18 inches away, the target is treated as having the benefits of dense cover against that attack. That's pretty cool.
So you can't see them.
Yeah, that is cool.
It is blocked.
Yeah.
But very, very large models are still visible. So their big shadow is still kind of outlined in the dark, in the smog, in the dust, I mean. So next we have aged defenses. This is a mysterious objective table. So go ahead and roll a d6 for each objective marker, but go ahead and just roll 1. Let's say we're revealing 1.
So
right now.
I rolled a 6. Flak emplacement. Until the start of the next battle round, each time an aircraft model makes a move within 12 inches objective marker, roll 1d6. On a 2 to 5, that model's unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, that model's unit suffers 3 mortal wounds. Okay, I like that mechanic a lot. That... Hey, 2 to 5. Yeah, it's a random number of wounds, but if you hit a 6, it's like exploding 6s. I do kind of like that. Yeah.
Right. So this one, they're aged defenses. I didn't notice this at first. You only activate it on a 5+.
Okay.
So that I'm like, wow, that seems really powerful. Oh, because it's only happening a third of the time. So that's cool.
Well, there's a really cool one that's number 5 called Comms Jammers. Until the start of the next battle round, each time a unit attempts to start performing an action within range of this objective marker, roll 1d6. On a 1 to 3, on a 1 to 3, that action automatically fails.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What a cool system.
Yeah, I like this age defense.
Yeah, interacting with the actions is such a cool idea.
Yeah,
but there's a stratagem, activate defenses, that lets you just try to activate the objective markers. It's not guaranteed, but it could happen. Then we have St. Bartolph's Throne Manufacturer. So this is in that pretty much that poor damned world. But so they have equipment stores that lets you look around on objective markers. So again, this is another objective marker thing, and you can select a vehicle within range of that objective marker, and it gains an ability. So
So I rolled a 4.
roll to see what upgrade they get.
So I rolled a 4.
What vehicle? What vehicle is it, Jason?
What vehicles?
Which one of your vehicles? Yeah, one of your vehicles gets an upgrade.
I don't know. What vehicles do I have?
Murder Fang? Murder Fang gets an upgrade.
Okay, Murder Fang.
All right, what is Murder Fang?
Actually, this is perfect for Murder Fang. Reinforced dozer blades. Until the end of the battle, each time the model finishes a charge move, select one enemy unit with an engagement range of it and roll 1d6, adding 1 if that unit has the infantry keyword. On a 3 to 6, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. On a 7 up, that model or that unit suffers 3 mortal wounds. That would be perfect for Murder Fang.
It would, and it wouldn't be actually dozer blades. It would just be like they just fill his Prometheum tank with like crack cocaine or something, and he just goes crazy.
Yeah, that would be that's awesome. That'd be perfect. Or maybe they did his nails on his feet. Yeah, maybe that was it. Yeah, you know, he can get a pedicure. It's okay. It's all right.
Next, we have additional action. So this is cool. This one has additional actions you can take in the game. Let's just do one of them. Let's do hack security feeds.
Okay. Let's see. Units of supply caches often interfered with an integrated pick feed, seeing what activity was occurring at other caches and gaining tactically useful telemetry. So characters from your army can attempt the following action, as described in the Warhammer 40,000 core book. Hack security feeds. At the end of your movement phase, one character unit from your army that's within the range of an objective marker you control can start to perform this action. This action is complete at the start of the next movement phase. When this action is completed, select one enemy unit within range of an objective marker. Until the end of that turn, each time a model from your army makes a ranged attack against that unit, add 1 to the attack's hit roll. Okay, so it could be like a sniper type thing. That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can. You're hacking into the cameras that are pointed at that objective marker, and you can see them. That's really neat. I like the idea of actions that aren't necessarily connected to objectives.
Yeah.
Not necessarily connected to gaining victory points or experience points. Instead, it gives you in-game effects, which is cool. Next, we have the Bothria Salt Plains. So the Bothria Salt Plains have just one simple rule, even footing, and they don't incur hit roll penalties for firing assault weapons when they advance.
Okay.
So you don't have to have these huge, complicated tables and stuff to represent your worlds. You could just come up with one simple rule for everything and to represent it, and add your complication elsewhere. Next is the Bone Fields, which I thought was really cool. Yeah. The sea monsters that are dead, and you can, get a lobster from your restaurant, eat it, and then put it on the battlefield.
It's a crate dragon.
Yeah. So this actually adds bone field markers, or you can use your terrain, right, that you place, your claws and stuff. The attacker rolls a d6 for each marker and consults the table below to see what ability it has for the battle. So this is old school mysterious objectives. So why don't you roll for one of ours,
All right,
Jason?
so I rolled a 5, and that's Bone Shard Floor, which is an aura. While a unit was in 3 inches of this bone field marker, each time that unit is selected to fall back, roll 1d6. Ooh, on a 1 to 3, that unit cannot fall back and must remain stationary instead. That's kind of cool.
Because it's kind of trapped in the field, in this hip deep in this shattered bones.
Yeah,
cool.
There's all sorts of interesting little effects in here. Actually, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, I really like. I like the idea of playing on that battlefield.
There's a psychic power infused skeleton that's really kind of cool too. So.
Oh, really? What's that do?
Well, a psyker unit is within 3 inches of this bone field marker. Each time that unit attempts to manifest the psychic power smite, add 2 to the psychic test. That's big. That's pretty big. And each time the unit suffers peril of the warp, it suffers 1 mortal wound instead of D3. So that's kind of
neat.
That's actually pretty neat.
You can use a strategic ploy stratagem called attuned corpses. So, like some of these corpses were psychically active. I think they're like Cthulhu monsters, I guess.
Oh yeah, okay.
And you can select 2 markers on the battlefield, and until the start of your next command phase, units count as being within range of each other's auras. So, if I'm on an objective and you're on an objective,
right,
like 24 inches away, my aura still affects you because I'm like connected to you psychically.
Oh.
Yep. You can also use an action to destroy the remains.
Yeah.
Which, if you want to, if you're like, no, F this. All right. So on this one, we have Artificer Relics. Which one did you pick, Jason?
This was kind of fun that was in there. It's called Gambler's Coin. This coin, which is certainly not double-sided and certainly not a forgery. I love they put that in there. Has brought much luck to those who have held it since it was smuggled to the Heliotier penal compounds. So once per battle round, before you make a hit roll, wound roll, or saving throw for the bearer, you can use this relic. If you do, select one of the dice you're about to roll. Do not roll that dice. Instead, treat it as having rolled a 6. So that's kind of cool.
That's really neat. I like that. That's fun. That's a really lucky coin.
Yeah, because it's per battle round, not like per game.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go away.
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not over, like, I don't think I would consider overpowered because, it's not like per phase, which would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's not like your turn. It's like the entire battle round. So either on your turn or your opponent's turn or whatever. But still, if you really want it to go off, it can go off, right? Especially if your stuff explodes like on 6s, which has special cool abilities that happen on 6s. Right? Okay. So I picked the Sea Dragon Tooth. The power of this dead sea dragon was such that its teeth still retain a portion of its strength and are no less sharp than they were in the life. Can't give it to a vehicle, which is stupid.
Yeah.
But when it fights or perform a heroic intervention, if you make a melee attack on a roll of 5+, it gets an additional hit. So a 5+ exploding hits is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat. I just like the idea of having a sweet tooth from a monster. Sweet monster tooth. I like it.
Right around your neck, We'll be okay.
Yeah.
Let me see.
So the next one is talking about the Charadon periphery. So this is when the Death Guard were launching their attacks on the worlds abandoned by the Mechanicus. So the plains of Denthria have a exposed plateau feature. And you determine what time of day it is.
Okay, so let me roll the die real quick. I'm going to use one of my Adepticon dice. Got a 4. So
a 4? It is freezing night.
Ooh.
Yeah. Reduce the armor penetration characteristic of a weapon by 1.
Yeah, there's some. Okay.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I guess the metal is more brittle or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
Denizens of the Dunes.
Okay.
Roll a d3 and determine what What denizens have been disturbed by the player's forces?
All right, so make sure this is what it is. Sorry, it's one of my Adepticon 2020 die that I got in the mail because I didn't go to Adepticon, but okay. So it's 6.
Aww.
Yeah. Venomous arachnids. At the start of the battle round, roll 1d6 for each unit receiving the benefits of cover from an area terrain feature. On a 5-up, that unit is poisoned until the end of the battle round. While a unit is poisoned, subtract 1 from the strength characteristic of models in that unit. This is not cumulative with any other rules that reduce a model strength characteristic. Nice.
Cool. Yeah, so I like that there's these ongoing effects.
I hope Carl
we're not
didn't
worried
listen to that.
about.
Sorry.
Right, we're not so worried about ongoing effects in narrative play.
Yeah.
Where in match play, you're like, oh, nobody wants to keep track of things on tokens and whatever. In narrative play, we don't care. That's fun. Sandstorm. So at the start of the battle round, if the sandstorm hasn't hit yet, roll a dice. On a 5+, the sandstorm hits and lasts for 3 battle rounds.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
And then like each round it escalates. Like when the sandstorm hits, you get a gale, reducing range to 30 inches on weapons. After that, you get a whirlwind.
Mm-hmm.
Range is reduced to 24 inches, and AP is reduced by 1 because the wind is like changing the velocity of the weapon, I guess, or it's absorbing the energy of the attack.
Mm-hmm.
The second battle round, after it hits, you get a gust, and maximum range is reduced to 36 inches.
Okay.
So it kind of starts dying down a little bit. So this is one of the war zones, or the theaters of war I was talking about, the Wheel of Patoo.
Mm-hmm.
This is you end up inside one of the asteroids.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like asteroid void battle effects, which you can use for pretty much any asteroid type fight that you might be doing. It's inside the asteroid,
mm-hmm.
but it's like low gravity, so units that fly can't advance because they don't. It doesn't really work.
Mm-hmm.
Like the I'm not sure how that works. Oh, because they're launching themselves off, and they have to be more careful, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Void battle impacts.
Okay.
We might be getting some impacts outside the asteroid.
All right. So in this case, we rolled low yield strike. Each time a model makes a melee attack, if its unit made a charge move or performed a heroic intervention that turn, subtract 1 from that attack's hit roll. Nice. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty. Actually, all of that's really interesting.
Yeah. Then we have gravitational. Yeah. We have gravitational effects, which I think this is a really interesting one. So the flow of this anomaly is like a river going of air mm-hmm. around the system, and it has weird effects on the asteroids and stuff inside. Like the gravity can change at a moment's notice. So you roll a d6.
Mm-hmm. And I rolled
to see what gravitational effect you'll be in.
So I rolled lighthouses, a 3, lighthouses aura. While a unit is within while a unit is within 6 inches of the subjective marker, each time that unit is selected to make a normal move or advance, until the end of the phase, add 1 to the move characteristics of models in that unit. Interesting. These kind of remind me of some of the rules that were made up for the fighting on spaceships, like on the outer hull or zero gravity.
Mm-hmm.
Although I didn't see I just heard about those rules. I never saw them. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. See, I was a little. I'm like. I think that the Oh, okay. The objective markers gain the following ability. I see now that not all of them affect objective markers. Like 2 of them do. The rest are like effects that affect the whole battlefield. Like the number 1 is low gravity.
Right.
Each time you make a normal move until the end of the phase, models in that unit can move across models and terrain as if they were not there.
Right.
So that everybody basically gets to fly.
Yeah.
Interesting. So next is the Emperor's Wrath, which is the huge space fortress that we don't really hear much about. Oh yeah, this is the corpse piles. So like all the objectives are piles of corpses.
Yeah.
And they all have these weird gross auras, which I won't go into. But you're allowed to use an action to burn the dead if you want, which is neat. Also, there are weapon caches throughout here. And you're allowed to forage for war gear in the terrain. So, Jason, why don't you forage for some war gear using a forage for war gear action?
All right. So, it's called stolen equipment. Good for a Blood Raven. So, 1, ranged high-end optics. Add 6 to the range characteristic of rapid fire and heavy weapons that models in this unit are equipped with. And for melee, stims. Each time a model in this unit is destroyed by a melee attack made by an enemy model, do not remove the destroyed model from play. It can, after the attacking model's unit has finished making its attacks, make 1 attack with one of its melee weapons. After resolving this attack, the destroyed model is then removed.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's kind of the...
You're so stemmed up, you get to fight even after you die.
Yeah, very Wolfen.
So next one is the Dead Arise. At the start of the battle round, calculate the total number of destroyed units from both players' armies and check the table below to see what effect the Waking Dead have for that battle round. Oh boy.
Yeah.
So if 2 units have been destroyed, there's no effect. 3 to 4, Stirrings of the Dead. Each time morale test is taken, roll 1 additional d6 and discard the lowest. On a 5 through 6, you have the same effect as before, but each time a test is failed, 2 models flee instead of 1.
Wow.
On a 7 plus, end of it all. The first 2, and also -1 to combat attrition. So just horrible morale through, because the dead are coming to life and it's terrifying.
Yep.
So in this one, we have battle traits. Which one did you pick, buddy?
I picked up honed marksmanship. Once per battle, when this unit is selected to shoot, it can make use of this battle trait. If it does not until the end of the used phase, each time a model in this unit makes an attack, add 1 to the attack's hit roll.
Right.
Yeah, not a whole lot.
I like that. But I like that all of these Charadon, or all of these ones from this area, are more morale based, or like resoluteness based. The one I picked is they're all like this. Once per battle, it's called the Resolute Spirit. Once per battle, the first time this unit fails a morale test, that test is automatically passed instead.
Yeah.
Because the crap they've seen, man.
You wouldn't believe what I've seen.
You wouldn't believe what I've seen. I'm not afraid. I ain't scared of you.
Yeah.
I ain't scared. So this one has an index of star days for the Exorcist chapter, which I believe has caused quite a bit of a stir.
Yeah.
Online. You know what? They can do whatever they want. It's Games Workshop. It's their IP. They can do whatever they like.
That is true.
And in your games, you can do whatever you like.
That's right.
If you are an Exorcist collector and you have a certain headcanon for your Exorcist chapter, there's nothing stopping you.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Yeah, I think there was some stir about what the I don't even remember what it was.
The progenitor chapter.
Yeah, I
is?
think that's what it was.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it went to Iron Fist, not
too.
Imperial Fists. I think. Yeah. I don't remember. I don't know.
I think so too. I think that's what it was. But again, it's your game.
Yeah.
Play it the way you want. All right.
All right.
So let's get into the Book of Rust.
Okay, let's do this.
Again, we're not going to go over everything.
Yeah.
Because that's ridiculous. It's 3 hours and 13 minutes into our recording. So.
Oh yeah, it is, isn't it?
I have to get up at 5 to run. So
okay.
The campaign is similar to the one devised for the previous White Dwarf Flashpoint. Mm-hmm. So the bigger the game you play and the better your win, the more Warzone points your Allegiance gets. Mm-hmm. And whichever Allegiance has the most Warzone points for a round in the campaign wins that round. Or wins that phase. There are usually 3 phases to a campaign like this.
Yeah.
Phase 1 is worth 1 strategic value point. Phase 2 is worth 2. Phase 3 is worth 3. So if someone wins both 1 and 2, and then someone else wins 3, they tie.
Okay.
If there's only, you know what I'm saying? So it's that they escalate like that so that no matter what happens in the first 2 rounds, whoever wins the third one either wins or ties the previous people.
Yeah.
So it's always worth it to play the third phase. So in here we have Theaters of War, including an Irradiated Wasteland, Metallic and Redoubt, and Ascendancy of Entropy. So the Irradiated Wasteland is really interesting. We're not going to go over all these, but I wanted to talk about how they do the mysterious objective markers. In this one, you perform an action when you reach one of the objective markers called Investigate Objective. And they give something, a permanent effect. So one of them is a shield system, like the unit discovers a shield system, and it increases their armor save by 1. Number 2 is awesome. It's abandoned supplies, and when you reveal the objective marker, you get D3 command points. So it's interesting stuff like that. I really like the way they did the mysterious objectives on the Irradiated Wasteland, like making the player actually do an investigation to find what it is.
Right, and that is kind of not. That is actually quite nice.
Yeah, I like that a lot. The Metallic and Redoubt has a lot of stuff to do with it's a way to help balance the game, actually. Like, you can roll for battlefield assets randomly, or you can pick one, or like if the defender picks one, the attacker can roll for one, and stuff like that. Like, it lets, like, if you want to sway the battle in one direction or the other, it gives you kind of like a interesting way of doing that. And you can apply this to any mission you come up with. If you feel like one side might have an easier go of it than another side, you can use these abilities to give the disadvantaged side a slight edge. For example, 3 is noospheric data uplink. Add 3 inches to the aura range of abilities of the models in your army. And if they're battle forged, roll a d6 each time you spend a command point. On a 6, the point is refunded. So it's a very simple but effective way of giving one player a bonus. Here's the one I really like, the Ascendancy of Entropy. So this one has Battlefield Twist. There's a D6 table, but depending on what you roll on 3d6, will determine how many of these you get.
Oh.
Do you have 3d6?
Well, I've got plenty of dice here, yeah.
Give me 3d6 roll.
All right, so 3d6s. Okay.
Now tell me which numbers came up.
You're going to laugh. 4, 4, and 4.
4, 4, 4.
Yeah.
Okay. If it includes any doubles. Okay, if it's a 7, the player taking the second turn of this battle round then rolls d6, and then the result determines which battlefield twist will apply. If it includes any doubles, the twist that corresponds to that double applies for the remainder of the battle.
And in the bottom there's the results of triple 2, 4, or 6. Then all of the even number battlefield twists apply for the remainder of the battle. Oh.
So rust, decay, and blight.
Wow.
Save characteristic of models is reduced by 1. Subtract 1 from the strength characteristic of all models. And each time a model makes an attack, the hit roll, wound roll, and damage rolls determine the number of attacks cannot be re-rolled.
Wow. Okay.
Now, what I might do is, like, for things like this, if you're playing against a Death Guard player, maybe they aren't affected by this, but you'd have to come up with some way of giving yourself a bonus, like one of the battlefield assets from the Metallic and Redoubt.
Yeah.
Or something, or just something about the mission would make it easier for the non-Death Guard player. So then we have a section on Campaign Master's Edicts. This is something that they did have. I think it was kind of spread out in the previous White Dwarf version of this. You have legendary missions that are included in this book. There's 3 of them, 1 for each phase of the campaign. If you use one of these missions in one of your games, you get +1 point for that phase. An additional Warzone point because you're using the mission that narratively goes with that. Now, it tells the game master, hey, if you feel like you want to use a different narrative play mission, go ahead, which is good. And if you're setting up your own narrative campaign, look through the narrative missions and you can use whatever you want for your legendary mission for that phase that best fits the narrative that you're trying to create. So it's kind of like a carrot stick thing.
Yeah.
Instead of requiring players use a certain mission, you're giving them the option to use a certain mission. And if they do, they get a bonus. Next we have Crusade Rewards. It works in the opposite of what you would think. If you're in first place, you get 0. If you're in second, you get 1, and if you're in third, you get 2 additional requisition points to each player in your alliance. Because if you're doing crappy, you need some extra points.
Yeah.
However, the campaign master also has the option to provide extra experience points to characters who perform, or units that perform, exceptional feats during the campaign. You don't have to leave that to people who are down on their luck. You can do that for people who just do something really cool during their game. Especially if they do something narrative that is negative towards their winning the game. If they're like, well, my army wouldn't do that, so I'm going to lose the game because they just wouldn't, like, say it's to run away or something. Like they're supposed to fall back off the battlefield and they just refuse to use the action to escape the battlefield because they just wouldn't do that. That's where you provide some extra experience points because that's awesome. Then you have secret orders. Now, some people are using secondary objectives. They're doing matched play missions for their campaigns because they prefer matched play. So they're using regular match play missions with secondary objectives instead of agendas.
Mm-hmm.
This is a secret orders ability, or like a button you can push or a knob you can tweak.
Yeah.
That adds a more flair to a matched play game. Why don't you roll a d6 and find out what your secret order is, Jason?
All right, so here we go. 4 shadow operations with one or more battles in the current campaign phase in which you earned experience points from a shadow operations agenda or victory points from a shadow operations secondary objective. So, yeah, it's not too bad.
They earn 2 Warzone points for their alliance so you would earn 2 more Warzone points for your alliance if you win 1 or more battles with a Shadow Operations agenda. Neat. Okay. So then we have a bunch of legendary missions. The route on Okarium is an escape and destroy mission. The Flood Tide on Fathom is really cool. So this one has a flooding effect that players, it's like the attacker is trying to increase the flood level while the defender is trying to decrease the flood level. And the different levels have different effects on the units. And if you're standing on terrain, your flood level is decreased by 1. Now you might choose to say, well, we have like this big Mechanicus rig thing. We're going to say that on this one it's -2.
Right.
But I would suggest, putting it in the middle of the battlefield or something like that. So that's really neat. I like that one a lot. I think that's a lot of fun. Like, yeah, you're using an action to like prime the pumps and pump water in and out of the area that you're fighting in. The next one is Desperation and Despair. It's basically chaos and mass hysteria. The deployment zones are ridiculous. They're a checkerboard.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, 6 squares on the battlefield, and you can actually deploy in combat with the enemy. It's a disaster. It's a total poo show of a mission.
It kind of looks
which is fine. Sometimes it is a poo show. So keep that in mind. That is a legendary mission. Again, the section on army rules, we're going to skip past it. But know that there are 3 armies of renown in here: Mechanicus Defense Cohort, Freeblade. The Mechanicus Defense Cohort is like robots. Then you have the Freeblade Lance, which allows you to take a bunch of Freeblades together and they act cohesively. Then you have the Terminus Est Assault Force, which is Typhus's teeming hordes of Never Dead. You also have 3 Codex supplements, one for Metallica, one for House Raven, and one for the Cult of Strife. From what I understand from the Matched Play podcasts I listen to, like Metallica, the Metallica and Raven ones allow you to kind of intermix those 2 factions a little bit easier without losing a bunch of abilities and stuff for allying in. Which is good because they do work together all the time. Right?
Yeah. Well, that also makes sense for some of the Crusade battle traits and whatnot. That there's one of the Crusade battle traits that I picked up that was like, this looks interesting. I see how this could be helpful, but I don't know.
Right.
I haven't seen the codex yet.
Right.
So.
Right. And, I would like to see more of this because I like allying units together, but only when it makes sense.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of thing I want to see more of. If we can get like certain Astra Militarum regiments working with certain chapters, it would be really cool to get a supplement for the Mentors chapter.
Yeah.
Like their whole thing is working with other like military units that aren't necessarily Space Marines. I think that would be cool. And you also have Cult of Strife, which is a Dark Eldar thing. Okay. So, Crusade rule. We have picks, so let's do it. Jason, which Crusade relic did you choose?
I went with the Metallican Augmentation. Because I thought this was kind of a cool little narrative one. As a mark of respect for lending aid to their Forge World in its hour of need, the Tech Priest of Metallica bless one of your weapons with their finest augmentations. So this is going to be Imperium Infantry model only. When a model gains its Crusade relic, select one weapon it is equipped with that does not have a weapon enhancement and is not a relic or Crusade relic. That weapon now gains 2 weapon enhancements. They can't be the same enhancement twice. And these enhancements do not further increase the model's Crusade points. Which I thought that was kind of a cool one.
That is cool.
Yeah.
That is really neat. I like that. That's fun. And I picked the Mimic Shroud. The Mimic Shroud is an esoteric device of unknown origin that bears an unfathomable rune which, when pressed, projects a holographic field that distorts the image of the bear, making them indistinguishable to those nearby. So this is kind of like a, if you like when you're revealing your cards in poker and you're like king, queen or whatever, and your buddy's like queen, whatever, and then like and then they reveal queen. They have like 4 queens, and you're like, aha, I have 5 queens. Well, anyways, I don't know if that made any sense. I'm getting really tired. A character with wounds of 9 or less, if they shoot you with an ability that allows them to ignore Lookout Sir, they can't ignore Lookout Sir.
Okay.
So they still can't shoot you because you have the Mimic Cloak. So it's like a trump card against a trump card type thing.
I was thinking like maybe it was this Placer Beast Cloak or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Yeah, you could definitely say that.
Yeah.
And just have tentacles, have sweet tentacles.
Hey, man. Yeah, well, we're going to stop right there. Okay, so...
or continue. Why? Are you getting excited? All right. Battle traits. Battle traits. There are a lot of battle traits here. Yeah. I think we both chose character ones.
Yeah, we did. We did.
Okay.
Another one.
No, we'll choose. We'll do the ones we chose, and then we'll do one other one at random. Okay. How's that sound?
All right.
So which one did you pick?
I picked up Master of the Counterattack. So in a battle that uses strategic reserves, this unit is ignored for the purpose of determining the combined power rating of units placed into strategic reserves. If it is Titanic, the power rating is halved for this purpose instead, rounding down.
That's smart.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
That's smart. I like that one. That's I would have never thought to make that one.
Yeah.
I always like that when I see one where I'll be like, I would have never thought of that one. That's a good idea.
It's definitely different. Yeah.
I picked lead from the front. Earned much glory on the bloody fields of Metallica, and not by sitting back and letting their warriors do all the fighting for them. While this unit is within 6 inches of your opponent's deployment zone, it is eligible to perform heroic intervention within 6 inches horizontally and 5 inches vertically. Each time models in this unit make a heroic intervention move, so long as it ends up that move closer to the closest enemy model, it can move up to 6 inches. All the rules for heroic intervention apply. Also, at the start of the fight phase, when it's within an engagement range of enemy models, it can fight first. So if it heroically intervenes 6 inches and fights first, which is gross.
Yeah.
But you lead from the front. You're in charge. You're a damn hero.
That's right.
All right, Jason, roll on a vehicle roll on the chaos vehicle units table.
Chaos. All right. Cool. I can barely see that. Got my glasses on even.
It's probably a 6. No,
it's actually a 3 this time. Hull growth. Crystalline warp growths on the hull of this vehicle absorb and refract incoming fire, greatly reducing their impact. Each time an attack with a strength characteristic of 7 or less is allocated to a model in this unit, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack to a minimum of 1. This is not cumulative with any other abilities that reduce the damage characteristic of an attack. Although 6 looks pretty cool.
Yeah, like low strength, high damage attacks.
Yeah.
Okay. There are also Imperium vehicle units, but also vehicle and monster units, excluding Chaos and Imperium. So I guess Drukari. I'll roll that
Roll
one.
that one.
2. Piratical Raider. Never fight the foe in their own terms. Never depart from battle without offering a parting gift. Ha ha ha. This unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it fell back. Awesome. That's definitely a Piratical Raider ability. Yeah. And each time a model from this unit makes a ranged attack, if its unit fell back this turn, reduce its ballistic skill characteristic by 1. Well, yeah. Okay, so it's if it can fall back and shoot, but it's at a -1.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Yeah. No, I like it a lot. That's so cool. Okay. Which weapon in here? There's a cool little quote in here, like a little narrative in here with Lord Thraxoplasmox finding a bunch of tanks that he wants to turn to the cause of Nurgle. Which weapon enhancement did you pick?
I chose auto targeting system, so it's +1 to attack versus units that can fly.
Cool. I picked Rad Infused Ammunition because it's adorable.
Yeah.
It's a pistol.
Yeah.
Which, cool pistols are cool. Each time you make an attack, the target can't use abilities that reduce the strength or AP or damage characteristics of the attack. So another trump of a trump card. And also rules that ignore wounds can't be used. So you don't get feel no pains. This is definitely one to be used against the Death Guard.
Yeah, definitely.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's fun. Okay. Requisitions. Which requisition did you pick?
I chose Oath of Fealty. During the Obelisk invasion. So this is the one that as I was reading, I thought, okay, I don't know what this is going to react to yet because we don't have the night books yet. But during the Obelisk invasion, many Freeblade Knights swore to fight side by side with the noble household once more for the duration of the campaign at least. So select one Obelisk invasion Freeblade unit in your Crusade force. That model gains 1 additional household keyword, and it must match the household keyword at least 1 other model in your army, excluding other Freeblades. You can use this requisition on each Freeblade model in your Crusade force. And I wrote, maybe I should do a Night House Crusade list. So, yeah.
Yeah, so basically you get... Normally, a Freeblade doesn't get any of the abilities from being in a Knight household, but in this case, I guess you would get the House Raven or whatever you picked.
Yeah,
who you're hanging out with. So that's neat. I picked the Bane of Empires. So if you're like Eldari, Tyranid, Orc, Necron, or Tau, you can spend 1 RP. And you can purchase it after playing a battle that is part of this campaign. And if your warlord destroyed an enemy warlord during the battle, you gain 5 experience. Ooh. I would love to be able to transform RP into experience, and this is how you do it.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd like to see more requisitions like this, where it's like you do something so awesome that you're willing to spend an RP to give your character or whatever more experience.
Yeah, definitely.
That's neat. I like that. Okay, so we have virulent gifts. I'm a little confused about virulent gifts. I don't understand them. I don't have the Death Guard book. I gave it away. And I guess you can... a virulent gift costs 1 RP, but also requires you to spend virulence points, which you gain throughout. It's kind of, like all of these codexes have a special resource that you can play with during a Crusade campaign. And for the Death Guard, it's these virulence points. But in this case, the 1 RP is spent on a one-time use ability that's sometimes pretty powerful. Yeah. But here's the problem I have with it. I know that Crusade the intent isn't to be like, let's make the most powerful thing possible. Let's make everything good.
Yeah.
I get that. But spending an RP on a one-time use thing seems kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I had whenever I was looking over this as well. You know.
Because, like, that's the RP is what you use to increase the size of your army, right? And there's nothing cooler than increasing the size of your army, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's very true.
And making your army, that's fun, right? That's the fun part of it, is building your army. So I'm like, it's kind of less fun to have to spend that resource on a one-time use thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems weird to me. Jason, which one did you pick to talk about?
All right. So I picked, actually I went through and read through these and was just like, yeah, this is kind of disgusting.
Yeah, these are fun. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. These are super fun, but I feel like having people spend an RP on it seems like,
yeah, especially if it goes
fun.
away immediately. I would think more.
Yeah,
you can keep it going on
and do it like once per game.
Yeah, once per game. So I picked pulsing bile sacs because, you know, I'm pretty sure my dinner has now digested. It is a brave foe indeed who strikes a champion bearing this gift. A veritable carpet of overripe bubbles festoon their flesh, and one good, hard blow will burst them. The resultant cascade of rancid juices is catastrophically infectious and typically lethal within minutes. So, when the bearer loses a wound, you can use this virulent gift. If you do, until the end of the turn, each time the bearer would lose a wound, roll 1d6. On a 4 to 5, that wound is not lost. On a 6, that wound is not lost, and if the enemy unit that made the attack is within engagement range of the bearer, then after it is finished making its attacks, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. This virulent gift is then lost at the end of the turn, is removed from the bearer's Crusade card. Yeah.
Yeah. So on a, once per game, once during the game, you get for a phase, you get a 4-up feel no pain that might, I'll get back.
Yeah.
I picked Bountiful Vomit because that's hilarious. I love a good Bountiful Vomit. Bountiful Vomit is the name of my ska band.
Oh, yeah?
That's a terrible name for a ska band, but, it's what we went with. When faced with foes too ignorant to appreciate Nurgle's magnificence, the champion's revulsion manifests as a torrent of corrosive bile. The curdled jet hits its victims with the force of an Adeptus Arbite's riot cannon, dissolving those who are not simply drowned.
That's nasty.
So a hose of
puke
vomit.
Yeah. That's just...
At the start of your shooting phase, you can use this virulent gift. If you do, roll a d6. On a 2+, the closest enemy unit is both visible and within 12 inches of the bearer, suffers d3 plus 3 mortals. If it contains 11 or more models, it suffers d6 plus 3 instead. This gift is then lost. So again, all of these are pretty powerful and good. Mm-hmm. I just feel like they would be better if it was once per game. Yeah. Or like you could regenerate it with more virulence points, but not spending RP. Yeah, that would be it. Like you could regenerate it. Like you spend the RP to open it up, and then later you use virulence points to regenerate it. Yeah. I don't know. And maybe that would be a good house rule.
Yeah, I think it would be, to be honest. Because having to burn 1 requisition point on that, I'd keep the requisition points.
Yeah, me too. I would want to use it to like make my army cooler, add more units, that kind of thing. Okay. So this was really cool book. Like I said, the lore was a lot better than in like at the end of 7th edition, those campaign books. Yeah. It's more succinct. Like those books were filling pages with a lot of backflipping.
Yeah.
This felt more academic. Yeah. I would say. Warzone Charadon reads a lot more academically, although it does have the the sections in it that are more narrative, but those are written well. I liked those quite a bit. The battle between Sister, I already forgot her name, Sister Northern European versus Typhus.
Yeah.
Was really cool. I liked that story. There were a few little nuggets in here. Some good information too. Some information about post Indomitus, or I guess now during the Indomitus Crusade. However we're doing this now, you guys. I don't know. Time is a construct of the mind.
Timey-wimey.
Not reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting pretty timey-wimey, especially at 11:24 at night.
Oh yeah, it's about that time.
And again, did I mention I was getting up at 5 to run?
You've got it, man.
I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. Did I mention the puppy yet?
Yes.
There's going to be a puppy.
There will be a puppy soon. Yes.
It's almost puppy time, Jason.
All right, so let's end off this segment, and we'll be right back to close out the show.
Oh, we've reached level 6.
Hey mofos, are you looking for more Warhammer 40k video content? Well, the Scarred Cast posts regular battle reports as well as tactics and strategy videos. Be sure to check out all the cool hobby content for the avid tabletop wargamer. That's Scarred Cast, Skared on YouTube.
Welcome back, everyone. So Jason's trying to end this show, and I think that's very rude of him. It's almost like he doesn't want to spend time with me at 11:30 at night. It's only 10:30 where you are, you big coward.
Hey, man.
Anyways,
I love hanging out with you until all hours, but I also know that you get to get up in the morning and run. Yeah.
Well, hold on. I have some very important. I need to determine something right
go
now.
for it.
All right. Ooh, double 5s.
Is it name generator?
No. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there is no name generator for this because it's. No, that's very sad. I'm very upset. So I did find a PDF. Someone created a name generator PDF that has all the name generators in it.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is good because all these codexes have started to not have a name generator, which is very sad for me. So anyways, I rolled 2 5s.
Okay.
Atrophy has blown across this podcast right now. A warp wind blows through the podcast, racking the bodies of those in its path, Jason and me, with a dozen painful maladies, making even the simplest of tasks a mighty effort. That's amazing. That was perfect. That's actually a perfect roll because right now the simplest of tasks, like saying the word task, is a mighty effort. Just almost as much of an effort as it must be to just listen to this right now. For the 12 listeners who are still listening and hate themselves. Okay, if you message me right now, message me immediately after listening to this, and if you heard me say, racking the bodies of those in a dozen painful maladies, Madelies. If you message me the word Madelie right now, I will make a $5 donation to, I don't know. What should I make a $5 donation to?
I don't know. I'm just wondering where this is going.
The BCRF, the Breast Cancer Research Foundation.
Okay. So
everyone who messages me with Madelie instead of malady, if you actually say the word malady, I'm not making the donation.
Okay. So that's be Madelie.
All right. So
Madelie,
you message me on Facebook or the Masters of the Forge Facebook, and the day after this drops, and I will do that. Now, Jason, don't you dare go telling people because I can't afford that. Okay. I only need the 12 people who knew. Or the 3 people who listened to this the day after it drops.
I wonder which one of the Which one of the many Facebook groups that you go through and pepper your personality with that I could go and leave this in?
No, don't do that because I can't afford it. I spent $1,000 on a puppy.
I know.
For God's sake.
It's a puppy.
Okay. Okay, fine. Grover Cleveland, the puppy. Okay. Units cannot make all right, Jason, we can't make use of the objective secured ability or similar abilities right now because we're so afflicted.
Okay.
Also, we cannot currently perform any actions.
Okay.
Which that's too true. We cannot perform it, but next episode we will certainly perform several actions. One of them to be talking about Dracarion Crusade. Yep. Until then,
play the game the way you want to.
116. Fantastic. Madelies. We'd love it if you could give us a positive rating and review on iTunes.
If you'd like to keep in contact with us, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter by searching for Masters of the Forge. And you can follow our hobby progress on Instagram with the hashtag Masters of the Forge.
You can also contact us at mastersoftheforge@gmail.com if you have any questions, topic suggestions, or if you'd like to advertise your creative hobby endeavor. Thanks again for listening.
The music used in this podcast was made by Parad of the duo Sublevel 3. The track is used with his permission. This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial, International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog, mastersoftheforge.com.
It's such a good feeling to play games your way. It's such a happy feeling 40K'ing away. And when you throw dice with story in mind, it's such a wonderful way to unwind. It's a good feeling, a very good feeling, the feeling you know that we'll be back when the fortnight's new, and we'll have new ideas for you, and you'll have things you'll want to talk about. We will too.